Good evening. The meeting of the Monroe Township Board of Education will come to order. Please stand as our student board member leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, Mr. Gorski?
Certainly. Mrs. Arminio.
Here.
Mr. Chiarella.
Here.
Mrs. DeMeo.
Here.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Here.
Mrs. Lang.
Here.
Mr. Pelori. Mr. Ryback.
Here.
Mrs. Siegel.
Here.
Mr. Tefano.
Here.
Mr. Rutsky.
Here.
Madam Board President, you have a quorum present this evening.
Thank you.
In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted February 8th, 2019, at all schools, the Home News Tribune, the Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go to the approval of minutes for the Public Board of Education meeting, Public Board of Education Organization meeting of January 3rd, 2019. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Arminio, Mr. Tefano, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Recuse? Then everybody is in favor. The approval of the minutes for the Public Board of Education meeting of January 23rd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Lang, Mr. Ryback, again, additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain or recuse? Okay, everybody is approving. And the approval of minutes for the closed session meeting of January 23rd, 2019.
So moved.
Mr. Ryback?
Second.
Second by, who would like that?
Patty.
Patty would like that. Mrs. Lang, again, additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain or recusals? Then everybody is in favor. We have quite a few presentations on our agenda this evening. So the first one will be Woodland Mill Lake Student Council. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Alvick.
I have the pleasure of introducing two MTEA Pride presentations this evening. Our first one is from Mill Lake Woodland Schools. These are the Mill Lake and Woodland Student Councils under the direction of Mr. Doug Dale and Ms. Trish Abrams at both schools. And they were involved in a wonderful fundraising activity for another member, another family in our community. So I will turn it over to Mr. Dale and Ms. Abrams.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm Doug Dale, Student Council Advisor from Woodland School, along with Tricia Abrams, the Student Council Advisor at Mill Lake School, and the student council members here in attendance from both schools. Everyone say hi. We are honored to have been invited to tonight's board meeting to report on an event the students came up with to help a local family in need. This family was a Monroe family, and the story is that when I dropped my daughter off at Mill Lake in the morning, I come up Tyndale Avenue and saw one day that there was a fire, a house caught on fire. It was pretty badly burned. I went to school the next day, that day, and I was talking about it in the main office with some of the secretaries. And one of the secretaries, Mrs. Lobo, actually knew who lived there and heard about the fire. She said that the dad got badly burned, the house was burned, so they can't live there. So we started talking about that at our student council meeting, and the kids thought it was a great idea to do some fundraising for their family and see what their needs were. So we reached out, and turned out that on Friday, February 1st, Actually, I need the slide clicker. Anybody got the slide clicker? No. You working now? Oh, all right, good. Thanks. So there's a picture of the house actually on Tyndale Avenue. I got that from the fire department website. What had happened was the dad was cooking and left something on the stove and fell asleep. The house caught on fire. Right there is where his kitchen was. And he was pulled out by some neighbors actually pulled him out of the house. He mentioned at our event when he showed up that he tried to go back into the house, and that's how he got burned. He tried to save some of his animals, and he got burned. Alex, her uncle lives actually next door and was one of the neighbors that helped him get out of the house. So, but on Friday, you can go to the next slide, please. On Friday of the February 1st, we held a combined Woodland Mill Lake fundraiser to raise money for this family. Like I said, he lives nearby Woodland School, right across the street from Woodland, and in between Mill Lake and Woodland. One of the goals of our student council this year, both student councils, is to inspire civic responsibility and a duty to the community. And this fundraiser hit that mark. The students came up with an idea to do a joint school pajama day for a donation of $3. In addition to that, they thought of having an assembly and inviting many guests who came, including the family who we were doing the fundraiser for, which is actually the Hode family. The mayor and members of the town council were there, the school administration was there, and the school board president and several school board members were also in attendance, which we thank you guys for coming out to that. It was awesome. And the kids loved it. The kids loved it. You know, when I started telling them that the school board was showing up to the event, they all got a little nervous. We're like, oh, what is she the president of? Is she the president of the United States? It's got a lot of questions, but they were inspired by you guys showing up. And we really appreciate that. On to slide 2. There you see the Woodland Student Council. What we did is, to prepare for the fundraiser, we started with a combined Mill Lake and Woodland Student Council meeting through a Skype call. This is the Woodland Student Council on our side of it. If you go to the next slide, you can see from the behind. That's the Mill Lake on the computer and projected on the wall there. And we're all talking back and forth about some of the ideas that we were going to come up with and suggestions that we were going to come up with for the event. On the next slide, during that event, that's the Hode family. That's Mr. Hode next to the podium and his children. His children are former Mill Lake and Woodland School students. They are all both in college at this point. But we thought that, listen, these are people that went through our schools, and some of us could have known them as teachers and staff, and some of us did. And so we decided to do this fundraiser for them because they were a local family that we do a lot of fundraising and a lot of things for bigger charities, breast cancer awareness, autism awareness, and things like that. And this really hit home to a lot of the kids, and they all came up with the suggestions to do all of this. And it was an idea that I introduced them to, and they just ran with it. So during the event, we held an assembly in the gym with our special guests that were there. The next slide shows the Mill Lake Student Council members. There's the Mill Lake right there. They were watching the assembly from their school, again through a Skype call, and they were projected on the wall behind us. So the people that were in attendance got to see it, and the Mill Lake students that were involved got to see it also. Mill Lake, they coordinated all of the pajama day donations and everything at their school, and my guys here coordinated at Woodland. On the next slide is our president here, Caden Cipolla. She is the student council president at Woodland School. She spoke about the amazing efforts of the student bodies and their selfless involvement in helping this cause. The next slide shows our student council treasurer, Julia Arts. There she is. Our secretary, Christina Padula. Okay. And our public relations organizer, Pranaya Jayaraman. Somewhere. There she is. They presented the amount of our collection, and the big check, which is on the next slide, I believe, There we go. To the Hode family. Now, the students of Mill Lake and Woodland raised $2,600 in just that one day. A couple of the next slide shows Mr. Hode speaking about the fire and his recovery. He's doing well. They are not back in their house just yet. It is not, from what Councilman DePiero said, being also the fire chief at one point and involved in the fire department, he said that their house is not habitable. They cannot even go back in to get things out of it. So they've been out of it. The fire happened in November, so we tried to raise some money for two things. One, for Mr. Hode's medical bills. We understood that his insurance did not cover a lot of the time he spent in the hospital. And two, them obviously living in a hotel while their house is being looked at and fixed up. So they needed the money. We reached out to them to see if they needed any clothes or anything for their animals. Unfortunately, a lot of their animals perished in the fire. They did not need any clothes or anything like that. So Kate Hode, who was the daughter just mentioned, said, if you could, raising money for us would just be the best thing. So, $2,600 in one day just out of students wearing their pajamas was a great goal, past our goal, actually. The next slide. And also in that slide, I'm sorry, Mayor Tambora said some wonderful things about Mr. Hode and his involvement with the town. Little did we know that Mr. Hode actually worked for the town of Monroe, and he was well known around the town. I noticed that in a couple of places around town, they were doing fundraisers for them also. In the next slide, at the conclusion of the assembly, the guests joined the Mill Lake Student Council, and if you see on the left side is all of the Woodland Student Council, the character crew, our special guests, and the Hodes and the big check, and on the right side is the Mill Lake side is all of the Mill Lake Student Council and administration. And it was nice that the mayor and all of you guys showed up at Mill Lake afterwards to see the students there. They were, like I said, they were beyond excited about having just the special guests there. And everyone, I think, was in awe of the event, and the kids really had a great time in pulling it off. So congratulate to them. In the next, in addition to the Pajama Day collection, the district staff donated another $1,000 to make a grand total of this contribution to the Hode family, which is, there's Caden Cipolla and I presenting Mr. Hode with the final check, which ended up being $3,624. So, great day. This was an all-out, full district effort that came together quickly, and would not have been possible if not for the efforts of both the students in Mill Lake and Woodland. They really are an incredible group of good people that do good things for a good cause, and when they went above our expectations to help their fellow Mill Lake and Woodland School family. I want to thank you guys for allowing us the time tonight to bring this presentation. The Hodes do have a GoFundMe page that we were going to contribute, but they said they would rather just, it was easier just to give them a check because GoFundMe takes a little bit of a percentage out. So if anybody still wants to get involved, I know their goal was about $25,000. And when we started this idea, they were around 12, and we gave them $3,600, and so there's still some things to do. So if you just search the Hodes on the GoFundMe page, but I want to thank a few people, you guys especially, for allowing us to do this. Our administration at both schools were so incredibly involved in it. The family members and the parents that sent in money and contributed well above what we expected to get. Some of the goal was $3 per kid, but some parents sent in checks for $150, $200. I mean, it was amazing, the outpouring of contributions from the families. I'd also like to thank the kids. The kids did a great job, and I know it's just PJ Day to them, but to the rest of our community, it was really a great event, and they definitely take all the credit for it. So thank you all for having us tonight, and go Falcons.
I'd like to thank our students also. I was very honored to be invited to this wonderful assembly, and I was so impressed with our kids to come up with this idea because at such a young age, they're so civically responsible. And we find that in Monroe, that when there's somebody in a time of need, we all get together and reach out and do whatever we can to support them. So I'd like to thank all of our students for doing this. This was a wonderful effort on your part and so much appreciated by the Hose family. And we are so excited that you, as young students, will grow up to be very civically responsible to everybody. Thank you. Okay, so Dr. Alvik, I think you have the next presentation also.
I do. So, our middle school builders club is also here this evening under the direction of Mr. Fields. They are a service leadership organization at our middle school, and they have done a lot of activities and service projects this year to, again, do some fundraisers, help the community, and also to help them become better leaders. So, Mr. Fields?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Fields, and I, along with Danielle Samet, are the co-advisors of the Monroe Township Middle School Builders Club. The Builders Club is a service leadership organization and program that gives students the opportunity to develop their leadership skills and abilities while volunteering and doing charitable work.
Next slide, please. So as you can see up there, there's a Kiwanis family tree. One of the great things about the Kiwanis family is that there's different levels of service leadership, and Builders Club is just one small part of that. So the Builders Club is actually part of this great international service organization that has opportunities from the club, the state, and the international level. And these students are given the opportunity, in a sense, to fail and make mistakes. And the philosophy behind the Kiwanis service program is that they're given those opportunities to be mentored by advisors, to interact with the community, to make mistakes, learn how to serve their community, so that one day they become more involved in the larger community. So tonight, the Builders Club is going to talk a little bit about why they are passionate about service. So can you guys give them a big round of applause? We're excited.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Yoro, chairman of the Builders Club Social Committee. My favorite thing about Builders Club is being able to help people who need it. For example, the blessing bags, which help homeless people by giving them things they need, such as food, water, deodorant, razors, etc. My favorite thing about the blessing bags is hearing people's stories on how they got into their situation. One example is Steve. He had congestive heart failure and is on disability, so he was very thankful for what we were able to give him because he cannot get a lot. This made me smile and appreciate what I have and grateful for everyone and everything in my life. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sarut Dunga and I am Webmaster Chairman of the Builders Club. What I love about Builders Club is how we run the fundraisers and what they achieve. Some of them include Pajama Day, Superhero Day, and Hat Day. The students find these events enjoyable, and so they love participating in them. Also, when our club hosts bigger events that have a bigger workload, some of the students help and pitch in. This makes it so that it's not only the club helping, but the entire student body too. Along with that, anything and everything we earn is sent out to help people, whether it's giving the homeless food or giving the needy things they need, like the blessing bags. I can be happy knowing that somebody out there is grateful for what we've done. Everybody wins. Thank you.
Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Arini Sharma, and my role in Builders Club is the Keepsake Committee Chairwoman. So what I love in Builders Club is the advertising. So in the club, we have different methods for advertising our different events and our different projects. One important method being the club's bulletin board. The bulletin board is a huge board in the MTMS cafeteria that shows the different projects that we have coming up, and the Keepsake Committee updates it on a regular basis. Another important method that we have is the flyers. This is my favorite part of Builders Club because students get to express their creativity, and they also get to learn the importance of advertising during different campaigns and various events. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Youssef, and I am the Secretary of Builders Club. My favorite thing about Builders Club is the community food bank. There, we serve meals like chicken parm, meatloaf, and brownies. To us, that may not be much, but to the people attending, they enjoy it. When I handed them the food, their smile was so big that I saw that they were thankful. For them to know that someone took the time out of their day to feed them. There are students in this community who want to be more involved, and Builders Club is a great opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Arisha Chandakaila, and I'm the treasurer of Builders Club. My personal favorite thing about being a part of Builders Club is how great of an impact we make on the people we help. For instance, the Builders Club had a project of distributing socks to the individuals who require it the most. The project was extremely successful and raised over 2,500 socks. And one woman named Dot sent the Builders Club her thanks. And in the letter she had stated, "You really shocked me with giving me all those socks for the needy. What a blessing, and I'll make sure they go to those who really need them." Even though I didn't know her, her letter made a huge impact on me, knowing that she cared about what we had done. I also admire how helpful we can be without acknowledging it. When the student body donated socks to the Builders Club, they didn't know how many people it would help, but they knew it would help someone. And our job as a club is to make sure we can carry this out and help as many people as possible. This is important because a lot of people have some passion and intention, and we helped even more people than we could imagine. This is my favorite thing about being a part of Builders Club. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gayatri Sankranti, and I'm the proud vice president of Builders Club. My favorite aspect of Builders Club is the democracy and leadership part of it. When I was running for vice president last year, I had to make a speech in front of the entire club stating why I would be the perfect candidate to be vice president. This was a new experience for me, and I really enjoyed it. Outside of school, I do a leadership program called Toastmasters, and in that program, your advisor picks whether you're president or vice president. So when Builders Club introduced this new type of leadership and democracy to me, I instantly fell in love with it. Builders Club also makes sure that we exit as leaders when we exit our club. One way we do that is by doing happy thoughts at the end of all of our meetings. Happy thoughts is a chance for every club member to stand up and state something positive about their day. In the end, Builders Club makes sure that we're leaders and not followers. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Education. My name is Sana Kakamanu, and I'm the proud president of Builders Club. I genuinely love Builders Club because of its potential for growth. In 6th grade, I was the by-the-book quiet kid until I joined Builders Club and was welcomed with open arms, and I got insight on the leadership aspect of running the club. It wasn't until 7th grade where I became secretary where I learned the intense effort and work we put into our projects. Even more so when I became president, I was able to understand the potential we have in our members to get involved with service, for our club to have an impact on our community and school, and even more so, the same potential in myself to grow. Moving forward, I'll be getting into my high school years, and I can use the experiences I've had from Builders Club to become a better leader and future member of Kiwanis, and more importantly, make an impact on my community. In the end, we all join for our different reasons, but we all join and we stay for our same reason. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak about our wonderful Monroe Township Middle School Builders Club. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to see us today and to give us an understanding, or more better understanding, of what the Builders Club does. And again, we have young children here and our young students here getting involved with fundraising and helping out those less fortunate and in the community. So thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is Middle States accreditation. Middle States. Mr. Goodall?
Good evening, everyone. Clearly, we do a lot of great things in our district. We have great schools in Monroe Township, but oftentimes we want some independent evaluation and validation of what we do. Monroe Township High School, from roughly 1999 on, has been involved in the Middle States Association, where they accredit your school for the programs that you run, your academic programs, your curriculum that you develop, your co-curricular programs, your athletic programs, how you handle school discipline, how you run and maintain your buildings and facilities. So it's a pretty comprehensive validation of what you do. And periodically you go through a starting point, a midpoint review, and then you go through the process again. So tonight we have from the high school, Ms. Danielle Drust. She's a teacher of biology. She's also the coordinator of the science department. And she was very brave enough to take on this task of coordinating 225 staff members at the high school to come to a common ground and put together a presentation as we look towards our middle school visitation next week. Ms. Drust?
Thank you. It's going to be a very tough act to follow. Those kids were wonderful. So my presentation's a little more dry. I apologize. So I just want to explain a little bit about what we're going to be doing in the accreditation process. Basically, we are looking, as Mr. Goodall says, as objective measures of school quality and student achievement, while also fostering the continuing idea of school improvement. The process begins when the school conducts a very comprehensive self-study and evaluation and submits to a very rigorous peer review process. A group from the Middle States Association will be coming to our school, evaluating us on 12 standards, as well as our institution's own personal plan for growth. Once the group visit is complete, the determination will be made if our continuation of accreditation will be awarded. The dates for our visit are March 19th through March 21st, 2019. These are the 12 standards that are set forth by Middle States. We have had to provide a lot of documentation to illustrate how our school is, in most cases, exceeding these standards, such as our facilities, our school organization, our wonderful staff, the tremendous educational programs that we run, the amazing amount of student activities and sports that we offer. So when looking at these standards, it's really an opportunity for us to show off how wonderful our district is doing and some of the great programs that we run in our school. So it also provides us, though, the opportunity to examine the school and implement a plan to work on areas that need improvement. Just so you know, the Middle States Association recommends that we need at least 3 objectives, which I'll be going over in a few short moments. 2 of the objectives have to focus directly on student achievement. The other one is, the third is what they call organizational capacity, something that will help the overall school organization. Much like a classroom rubric that we would use to grade student success, we went through, as I said, this very extensive self-survey as well as self-evaluation to try to determine areas that we could work on as a school organization. So a survey was sent out to all staff, students, and parents. We tabulated all that data, and we again, as I've been saying, have been reflecting on those 12 standards as well as other areas that we would need to improve on as a school community. The Middle States review cycle is for 7 years, so all of the goals you're going to be seeing are going to seem very long-reaching because that's the point of them. So our first goal, which is more of our student academic goal, we said by the year 2027, the students at Monroe Township High School will demonstrate improved academic skills and abilities as indicated by proved critical reading and math skills by a 3% increase in our SAT ERW, English reading, writing, as well as our SAT math scores. So our scores are very good, but we want to always have room for improvement. So this was a goal that we felt we could manage. Our second goal is that by 2027, students at Monroe Township High School will have an increased knowledge of career preparation skills. I apologize that it's so small. This will be by a 2% increase in exposure to programs such as AVID and using AVID strategies in the classroom, a 2% increase or 3% increase in the number of students involved in the academic academies that we have at the high school. And by 2025, we're hoping that 85% of students will complete the career profiler found on Naviance and use that tool more to its advantage to give them some ideas about future career goals. And our third and final goal, again, had to do more with not so much student achievement, but with the organization itself. And we said in this goal that we were going to improve district communication between all stakeholders, including parents, staff, students. The one key linchpin we felt in all of this was that we would be moving over to the Schoology Learning program so that everyone is in contact. We also hope to increase our social media presence on Twitter and Instagram by having more parents and students seeing the wonderful things that we're doing, and also just having more of the community involved with receiving things like the Falcon Flyer, which indicates the great things going on within the community. Now, the one thing that is not included in this presentation, because I tried to compress it, is that for all of these goals, we have action plans that we're going to be undertaking to try to make these goals a reality. There will be a midpoint review where we check in, check how we're doing with our data, and much like in SGO, we get to change as the organization changes because we are a living school district that's going to be facing different challenges as we move forward.
Sure.
Open up to the board if you have any questions.
So, just curious, if we get the accreditation, if we're blessed, how long is that just for 1 year, or is it a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year?
It's a 7-year cycle.
Excellent. Well, 7 years is a good time. That way,
Yeah.
We don't want to do it every
Yeah,
3 years, right?
exactly.
Right. That's a lot of work. Anyone else have a question? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Russ, thank you for all the work you did. And I know firsthand when I got started with you in doing that, it's not a report that a principal or Dr. Alvick can write about a school. It comes grassroots from the teaching and support staff, and she did an incredible amount of work to put this together. So thank you very much.
Okay, our next presentation, we will be honoring our support staff of the year with a plaque. And Mr. Goodall and Dr. Alvick and
Sure.
Mr. Gorski, if you would.
So each year, we recognize our support staff that are an integral part of our organization. Our support staff members of the year provide our teachers, our administrators, and most importantly, our students with incredible support throughout the school year. They essentially make our finely tuned clock click. They are the people who work in the background. They are the secretary. They are the bus driver, maintenance, custodians. They do an incredible job supporting everyone in the school district. So if they're in the audience tonight, we'd like to show them a token of our appreciation with the plaque to come on up. And once we call your name, if you could stay there so we could take a picture, that would be great.
Okay.
From the Woodland School, Deborah Parenti. Mr. Pepe, can you help us? From Oak Tree, Daniel Fredericks. Stacy Diaversa, Mill Lake School. Lisa Romano, Brookside School. Andrea Marsh, Monroe Township High School. Francine Sorrento, Barclay Brook School. Carol Majewski, Transportation Department. Christopher Bierman, Applegarth School. And Louise Bauman, Monroe Township Middle School.
Okay, our last presentation of the evening is something we look forward to every year. It's the 2017-2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and I will turn the program over to Mr. Gorski.
Thank you, Madam. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Gerald Stankiewicz of Samuel Klein and Company, the board-appointed auditor, to give a presentation to the board on the results of the June 30, 2018 audit.
You might have to use her. Yeah, pass sit down.
Good evening, members of the board, administration, and board president.
Can't go any further.
We're pleased.
That one's fine. Yeah, that worked great.
I'm pleased to be here tonight to present the audit. And in following with all the prior presentations this evening, I have actually good news as well. We issued the audit last Wednesday. The audit was on delay. There was some new accounting pronouncements that were, believe it or not, released in June of 15 that were applicable to the school year ended June 30th of 18, that not the Department of Ed, but the Department of Treasury, Division of Pension and Benefits, did not release until 2 weeks ago. And we needed time to assimilate that information into the main CAFRA and to look at the accounting ramifications of it. And for the record, there really are none other than note disclosures, because the information they released is not the obligation of the board. There are numbers that are allocated to the board based on the number of employees. However, this board's not paying for it. It's involved the TPAF and the PERS post-retirement benefits. So that information added about 8 pages to the audit. However, there's really no financial impact to the district at this time. So basically the audit, which we view as a joint venture with the business office, the finance department, sort of a year-round venture. There's dialogue constantly, questions, answers, concerns, bouncing stuff off of us to see what we think. So it's not just the month of August and September. It's a year-round situation. An audit is a sample. Well, the root word of audit, the word comes out audition. So it's a sample. And basically, what we end up with during an audit is we do testing. We test revenue, we test expenses, we test payroll, we test the bank reconciliations, we test the enrollment counts, we test compliance of various different items, which I'll get into briefly. But what you have in front of you are 2 separate documents. There's a thick document, which is the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It's actually the board's document, the board's finance office document, and the board's document. And inside this document, the only thing that belongs to us is our independent auditor's opinion. And to get to the chase, the independent auditor's opinion expresses what's known as an unmodified opinion. In the old days, it was known as an unqualified opinion, and in layman terms, it's a clean opinion. And what it means is that based on our testing and our good results, that the records as presented by the business office, the finance department, were presented fairly in conformance with accounting principles related to school districts, okay? The Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which is this national oversight group, mandates and dictates what procedures we have to follow. I believe only 2 states in the country don't follow GASB for school districts. I don't know which ones they are, but they're not in the Northeast. So basically, inside this document, and I want to refer you to page 9. Page 9, just to give you an idea, we're engaged to be the independent auditors, okay, to give a report on the financial statements. So you'll see the first bullet there is report on financial statements. Management's responsibility, which would be Mike Gorski, Laura Allen, and the whole business office, their responsibility is to present us with the financial statements. They present us with financial records, general ledgers, expenditure reports, revenue reports, bank reconciliations, as well as all the invoices and supporting documentation for virtually everything that occurred, every transaction that occurred during the year. Those transactions are subject to our testing. So we're going to give a report. Management gives up the records. Our responsibility is to express opinion on those records, okay? So again, we issue, which is on the next page, the opinion. It doesn't say unmodified, but it means unmodified. What it means is the records as presented present fairly in all material respects, the respective financial position of government entity activities, which is your main business fund, your main operating fund, your business activities, which is your food service, your early childhood and your Falcon Care, okay, and also your trust funds. So in that regard, based on our testing, we're giving you what is known as an unmodified opinion, although it does say present fairly. Fairly does not mean as in fair, good, poor, excellent. It means it's a proper representation of the records. As well as in this report, there's other lengthy verbiage about the operation of the municipality, which is contained in the management discussion, the district. There's a management discussion and analysis, which is actually the administration's representation to the board about items relative to the district. Some of it converts our audit report into more user-friendly, let's say, language and user-friendly presentation, but it's also a chance for the district as a whole to toot its horn. That's contained in the MD&A, in the upfront section. Other sections, which I want to point out, contain various financial information. And, you know, the old joke about people maintaining 2 sets of books, well, we have 3 sets of books, okay? We have our basic financial statements. We have our conversion to generally accepted accounting principle financial statements. And then we have our conversion to the GASB required financial statements. The GASB basically converts your basic financials, which we'll get to more of a corporate model, where we measure depreciation, we measure long-term liabilities, we measure compensated absences. It tries to convert it to a corporate mold to see, okay, what does it really cost to run the district, okay? It's cumbersome. It's been in effect for the past 25 years, and every year they add more requirements to it, which also push the ability of auditors to issue the report on time back even further, okay? So inside the document, there's different financial statements, but I want to just highlight critical ones for you. Page 35 is your business type activities. And business type activities are activities that could otherwise be performed by a corporate commercial entity. For example, food service, early childhood enrichment, and Falcon Care. Okay, those are not in the regular mainstream of your general fund, which is where your budget is. And you just want to point out to you that your food service fund, which is about a $3 million a year operation, okay, is solvent and doesn't have a loss. You're not allowed to lose money, but you're not allowed to make too much money. So it's in a good position. Your early childhood enrichment is a positive $192,000, and your Falcon Care is a positive $1.2 million. However, $600,000 of that is being brought over into the general fund as a revenue item in your 18-19 budget. So I want to just point out that those funds were properly maintained, and all the records were actually in very good shape. Another section of the audit I want to direct you to is page, where are we? Page 107, and you kind of need to turn the book sideways. That's called your general fund. It's a $120 million operation, okay? It is where all your main expenditures occur: salaries, health benefits, teaching supplies, books, all the specialists that you hire, all the special fees that you pay for handling special kids, tuition to the special schools for all the kids. And it just contains a lot of information on a line-by-line basis as to exactly, you know, what was spent by the district during the year. And again, every year that somewhere, maybe it's in Washington, they expand the chart of accounts, because there's always someone looking at school districts and trying to figure out, you know, what are we spending it on and what's the result. So again, we test for that coding as well. But I want to direct you to page 107, okay, to the actual column. There's a recapitulation of fund balance halfway down the page, okay? Now, I'll give you the components because I don't want to give you or the impression or the public the impression that we have all this money, because quite frankly, it's spoken for. Example, $125,000 is for encumbrances. Those items that weren't delivered before year end, but were still out there as a purchase order. $6,044,000, that's a revenue item in your 18-19 budget, and for all intents and purposes, it's been absorbed in your 18-19 budget and it's gone. The next one, which results from your operations from 2017-18, is excess surplus of $5 million. That's mandated for that's mandated for use in your 19-20 budget. The statute works that way. You also have a capital reserve, which is a wonderful thing to have. You have $980,000. However, $890 of that is being used in your 18-19 budget for capital-related expenses. The last number then is $2.17 $2,157,000, which is the 2% ceiling that you're allowed to keep. In the old days, we called that the free balance, okay? And the old days weren't that long ago, but that would be your free balance. It can be eaten into, but that's what the statute allows you to keep. A reserve in case you have a problem, money to roll forward into subsequent years. So, although it looks like a big number, it's spoken for in various components. The rest of the document contains notes to the financial statement, which describe all the accounting requirements that you're supposed to follow. And again, it keeps it getting expanded year after year. And quite frankly, I think the lords of the profession have made it too complicated, okay? But we have to follow it. We put a lot of time in making sure your disclosures are proper, because believe it or not, somebody soon will be reading that. If your referendum is successful, they'll be looking at this document quite closely, and they will be looking at and look favorably upon your MD&A, which describes a lot about the district. So, yeah, and it has information that, appears in corporate reports as well. I don't really look at a lot of corporate reports, but I used to do corporate, and I know some of the disclosures are exact. They want to know about your debt. They want to know about your fixed assets, your other liabilities. It's all contained in there. Okay, but like I said, also, a lot of information on pension, a lot of information on post-retirement benefits, which is mostly medical benefits. Those are at least 25 pages of stuff that we had to add in the past few years for information purposes, okay? Some of the numbers and the allocated numbers towards Monroe are in these notes, and they are absolutely staggering, okay? But they're not immediate liabilities. They're theoretical in that they're actuarially determined. And quite frankly, they could, with the changing of interest rates, they could change every 15 minutes, okay? But the numbers are in there. It gives you a rough idea as to what the obligation is for the board. And in 2 cases, there is no obligation because by statute, it's paid by the state, okay? So it's just information so you can see what it actually costs on behalf of the district. It's actually called a special funding situation, and it's quite popular in the country. And in your notes, it's an obligation of the state. It actually appears in the state audit. They have to book it as a liability, and it's just an incredible number. So the rest of the financial statement document, the CAFRA, which again, it's really representations of the board, and all we merely do is audit it and help the finance office kind of move it into report format. There's another section, it's called the statistical section. The J section, we call it, gives a 10-year history of a lot of information of the municipality, okay? And it talks about things like rateable base, borrowing capacity, tax rate information, largest taxpayers, of which you have some seriously large taxpayers. And it talks about taxes, your borrowing capacity. So it's a lot of information that will be looked at closely eventually. So basically in this document, it's a reflection of the board. It's a document that we kind of quarterback putting together, but really it's overseen by and proofread by the finance office, because it's your information, okay? In a corporate setting, the auditor doesn't put the report together. The auditor is handed the report. We're very close to that actually here. The other document, the thinner of the two, is actually my representation of the board. And if you'll note, you'll see on the thick document there is no gold lettering, but on the thinner one there is, because that's my representation to the board. Now, we have an unmodified opinion, and we got there because we had successful results in all of our testing. So I'm going to just highlight some of the things quickly, okay, that are key. And just for the record, before we issued the report, we had a required exit conference with management of the district, and which included Mr. Goodall, Mr. Gorski, Laura Allen, who's the assistant CFO of the district, and we discussed, we really didn't have any findings to suggest. We actually reviewed the report, made sure everything was in order, made sure the numbers agreed to what the district felt. How did we get there? Well, number one, no matter how fancy of an audit you want or get, cash is still king. Your bank reconciliations agreed to the penny, to the general ledger, 100% of the time. Next, we audit expenditures. The 4 important things in expenditures are A, all expenditures were properly documented. B, They were properly coded with respect to budget account, which, as I said before, was critical because somewhere in this world, someone's looking at individual line items, and although we might think it's ridiculous, it means something to some bureaucrat somewhere looking at what we spent on security or administrative technology or whatever. So everything's properly coded. It's cut off properly with respect to the fiscal year. So if a bill is paid in July, August, or September, okay, and it relates to the period ended June 30th, it was properly cut off. It's set up as an account payable. That's also a corporate type thing, but that worked its way into the school board auditing ring about 35 years ago when they felt that it was necessary to move towards a more proper accounting and year-end cutoff. And the fourth thing, which is important with expenditures, is that we are in compliance with the public school contracts law. We prepare a test, we review various expenditures throughout the year as part of our testing, as well as a more focused test for for compliance with the public school contracts law. Right now, because of the size of the district, the board has elected and has appointed Mike Gorski as the chief purchasing official, who's also a QPA, it's called a qualified purchasing agent. That raises your threshold for bidding up to $40,000 as opposed to $29,000. It also raises your threshold for obtaining quotes, okay, which it goes from, it's 15% of your bid threshold. So that amount is $6,000. Also, the district, fortunately, is involved in a lot of purchasing co-ops, okay, which takes the pressure off of the purchasing people to, you know, not to violate the bid law or the quote law. So the district's involved in a lot of cooperative purchasing arrangements. They're set up throughout the state. They're all approved by the state, so I think there's been a lot of savings here. I know Mr. Gorski may have information on the actual savings. So in that area, expenditures overall, outstanding. Payroll, we spend a lot of time on payroll. Obviously, it's your biggest expense. The payroll department is set up to provide an adequate audit trail, okay? We spend a lot of time down in that basement with Matt and his two assistants. We check to make sure that the gross payroll on a sample basis is properly paid. We check to make sure their withholdings are proper, that they're adequate. We check to make sure that base pays are paid, that certain contractual people are paid properly. We check to see part-timers are paid properly, overtime is paid properly. We run a pretty extensive sample. All the documentation is there and lined up properly for us, and it's highly, highly computerized out there. When I tell you the entire records for the year are on a thumb drive as big as my pinky, it's kind of amazing to me. So, and it's all there and properly lined up. So, payroll is also working properly. With regards to your food service fund, we spend time looking at METS's records. We look at their payroll records. They're generous enough and kind enough to provide us with their records. We look at their invoices, because they're really their invoices, but we get billed for them. We look at their invoices. We look at their timesheets. We look at their payroll records. We check their calculation and the trail for our monthly reimbursement claim. There's a nice audit trail for that. Required to have that. We also check cash receipts and revenue in that area. In the past couple of years, since the what's it called, the Falcon Care and the Early Child have taken off, we've spent a lot more time in that area because it's, quite frankly, one of them's $1 million entity, and it deserves audit attention, not only from us, but from the management as well. And over there at the school, I don't remember the name of the school, but the woman's name is Sharon Jensen. She does a very nice job, her and her assistant, keeping the records. Okay, so that all worked out, and that's all overseen and checked, and it worked out very nicely. It's critical, I think, for the board to know that in all these key areas, although I get it that the kids come first, there needs to be a few bucks always set aside to make sure that the business operation office is adequately staffed. You don't want to have a blip in the process after having had developed over the last 30 years a pretty darn good internal control system. Okay, you don't want to have to fall back, and it can happen. Change in personnel, it can happen. Okay, but as long as you have a good feeder system and everyone in there is properly trained, and they are, that's all minimized. Okay, so I think that all worked out very well. I do want to say the employees in the business office were very cooperative, and they wanted to know how good they were doing, and we made them aware, okay, this was all fine, this worked well. I do want to acknowledge Laura Allen, because in the last several years since she's joined the district, she's taken a higher and a more prominent role. Laura's a CPA like Mike, but Laura's one of the CPAs that got like a 99 in the CPA exam, so she's quite qualified to handle the job. So we do appreciate her help. And one of the other areas we look into as well is we do a quite extensive audit in the enrollment count, okay, and also in the district's report of transported students. We check that quite closely, and we also verify the IEPs. You have a lot of them here, and we just make sure they're there and on file, and there's a good system. Again, there was a good audit system set up. We go over to the office over there in, I don't know the name of it, Monroe Commons, I believe it is. And so our staff goes in there, they spend 2 days in there and check a lot of things. Student activities, properly administered. However, the key thing there is it's such a small dollar amount that we can't spend, 4 weeks looking at student activities when the biggest part of the audit is in the, the main part. But it is reviewed by the administration finance office a couple times a year. And when it's presented for audit, okay, it's in relatively good shape. Key there too is to make sure when there's turnover that if a new principal or a new person takes it over, that immediately they're trained and they're given the ground rules. Because again, every now and then, change in personnel, there's a little blip in the process, and all of a sudden we have havoc, and that's been avoided. So in the end, we end up with this document that indicates everything that we had talked about, and it has information relative to your student counts, your excess surplus calculation, your number of meals claimed, your net cash resources in your food service fund. Every year, the DOE adds another page for us to fill out. This year, they wanted us to check your lead. Now, I'm not an engineer, but I flipped through the book, and so, again, they keep putting stuff on us, too, as well as your administration to check. So we had to make a comment on that. But in the end, as a result, we end up with fantastic auditing results, and we end up with an unmodified opinion, which is the best that you can get.
Thank you, Mr. Stinkowitz. Because we have a lot on the agenda tonight, I would just like the board to indulge me for a minute or two just to talk about some of the highlights from my perspective. Surplus this year, the board has always been interested in 2 areas of the audit predominantly. Are there any audit recommendations? Did you do anything wrong? And the answer to that, according to Mr. Stankiewicz, is no. There are no audit recommendations. There are no audit comments. And what happened with surplus? This year, the Board of Education consumed about 17% of the available excess surplus, about $1 million, because of mainly the effects of growth and the stress of growth on the district, special education programs that were beyond what was budgeted for, and labor agreements that came in higher than what was budgeted for. So some surplus was consumed, but we still have a reasonable amount there to carry on an operation of this size. The board's proprietary fund, which picked up in the ashes of Mecca, has early childhood enrichment and Falcon Care, and due to the guidance of Sharon Jensen, that fund has made a net income of $1.6 million in its first 3 years of operation that the board has unrestricted access to and has transferred over into the general fund to reduce taxes and meet the demands of growth in the district. That is a financial highlight here that cannot be underscored. And this year, it was about a $500,000 profit as well. We have joined a purchasing consortium, as Mr. Stankiewicz said, and we saved over $4 million in the first 7 years of participation in that purchasing consortium by buying supplies in bulk through the county office. Supply is every consumable item you can imagine, and this requires staff to go online, requisition the supply item that they need. It gets approved in accordance with that, and we buy through bulk. That $4 million is a savings beyond what we would recognize through state contract purchases and bidding, which are both allowable by law and very advantageous, and we've done even better. My office is rather lean. We have a number of staff that you can count on one hand, and I can introduce very quickly. But everybody is very dedicated and works very hard to improve operations, to save money where possible, and to keep money in the classroom. And I want to thank the Board of Education for giving me the assets in that department. especially Lori Allen, who does a fantastic job. As Jerry mentioned, she's a very unique, talented person who works in so many areas to make all the different departments that she helps better. And I appreciate all her assistance. I would encourage everybody, board members and members of the public, to read through the comprehensive annual financial report. It appears intimidating, but once you get into it, especially the demographic and the statistical information, you can understand it without too much sophistication. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. We spent 3 hours with a couple new board members going through this report, and I encourage anybody, whether you're new or been on the board for a few years, if you want to go through this and have that presentation performed again, I would be more than happy to. We're going to post this on our website. Any members of the public are welcome to take a look at this, and this will be examined closely by Standard & Poor's once our bond referendum is successful, March 12th. And they will extract information from here, which will lead to a very attractive bond rating. We currently have the best bond rating a public school district can attain, and that will reduce the borrowing cost of this community. So thank you very much. If there's any questions, we'll be happy to take them.
Okay, Mr. Rutsky, I believe you have a resolution?
I do have a resolution.
Okay.
But can she ask a question first?
We'll have a resolution, a second, then we'll have comment questions.
Gotcha. Okay. It is recommended that the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education accept and approve the comprehensive annual financial report and the auditor's management report on administrative findings, financial, compliance, and performance, and hereby approve and authorize the submission of the required corrective action plan to the county office, indicating that there are no recommendations for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018.
So
He moved it. He moved it. So Steve seconded. Sorry, Patty.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll open it up for comments or questions. Ms. Arminio?
Okay, on the management report, the auditor's management report, page 8, under Child Care Initiative and Falcon Care, it says interfund payable to general fund was liquidated during the year. Does that mean the loan that was taken out in the previous administration that
Michelle,
needed?
That was a typo that we've given Mike revised copies of, okay? That phrase in there, Mike, that was revised.
it was liquidated in the previous year. That loan from Mecca has been completely satisfied as per board resolution.
Yes, so not this year,
Last year. Yes, ma'am.
So then okay, so I got that, so that's a very good thing. So the surplus then, the excess revenue over expenditures is the $397,072.29. That, it's in there, so I imagine that's correct. But so
Yes.
we don't have any more obligation to pay down any other loan through this.
No, the board passed a resolution a
Right.
few years back demanding that the loan from Mecca be repaid back to the
I
general
remember
fund. And that has been fully satisfied. And as you stated, this represents that $397,000 is the net income from Falcon Care, and $86,000 is the net income from ECE.
And those can go into our general fund, right?
It's unrestricted. The board can pass a resolution using that money,
Okay.
and it was established in the board budget philosophy to use it once again this year. And
Okay.
we'll make a recommendation soon to harvest some of those profits again, to keep taxes down and to meet the demands of growth in the district.
And the reason why I asked, I did remember celebrating that we had paid for it prior to that, so I was wondering, what happened there? I have a question about, and this is just informational, about when Mr. Stankiewicz said, paid by the state liability, special funding.
Yeah.
And that is for pension benefits?
That is for TPAF pension,
T,
not PERS pension.
okay, TP,
TPA, Teachers Pension and Annuity Fund.
okay.
It's all for all certificated professionals within the district, as well as this year, they talk about post-retirement health benefits. That's in there as well.
And
That's a different situation than pension, okay? But it is a number.
Okay, but that is, as you said, a state liability?
The TPAF pension
Yes.
is the legal obligation of the state of New Jersey.
Okay, so my real question is, That's just the background information. My real question is, the state, and I'm not familiar, it's just a question for information, that there are times when the state does not pay into their liabilities and their funds. Is this kind of fund, you know,
That's
could
the
that be
fund.
at risk of where the state doesn't come through and pay these funds?
There are actuarially determined numbers.
Correct.
Okay,
I got that part.
the state comes nowhere near paying. And off the top of my head, I believe it may be 20%. Mike, you might know, it might be higher, but your pension obligation, I think, was in the area for TPF that was allocated to you. I thought the number was like about $18 million, but I think they only
So-
paid a portion of that. We're not on the hook for it.
We're
just-
not.
No.
But, I mean, it's a shame. It should be paid by the state. I mean, that's one of the things that, you know, our employees deserve. They paid, and they
Right.
pay into that, is that correct?
They contribute towards it, but the state contributes as well, but they're not paying the full amount. The number that they should have contributed was
What-
18 million,
What page are you on, sir?
page 80.
80? Okay.
Yeah, but that's actuarially determined. And by the way, when I mentioned at the exit conference that if you look and see, our state aid is listed there, but that expense is reflected on our records in the front section, but it also has a related offsetting revenue. It's called an on-behalf payment. What it's done is, why it's done is to show the public what it really costs to run the district, and the assumption is if they really paid all that, which they haven't, okay? So, but it's an unbelievable number.
So probably our employees should be very cognizant of that with their state representatives, right? I mean,
Yes, I guess, yes.
as something that we should look at for ourselves
Well,
and our
every
employees.
state is struggling
Yeah, I
with
got it,
pensions, okay?
But a
And,
promise is a promise, right?
Yeah, and I don't know what the future of pensions brings, so I
Okay.
don't want to get emotional about it. Because my wife works in the school district.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'm done, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Pelori?
So the obligation is, it's not just the Monroe Township that's going through this kind of a differential between the state payment versus non-payment, right? Other school districts are experiencing about the same thing?
Oh, in New Jersey?
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, you're not singled out, it's statewide. It's even in some colleges and also a little bit in some police unions as well, that they have these special funding situations, but it's not a big number. It's the teachers, the TPAF is the big boy. And by the way, it's a lot of states too. A lot of states have the same thing going on with this as well.
So one other question. You said that when you start doing your audit, you pick stuff randomly, and do you pick them randomly, or?
Oh, yeah. We run random samples and boom, you know, we have a random number generator. It's very simple. We ran a random number generator and we run random numbers and boom, we send the selections in and that's what we pick. We do that for our transaction testing for expenditures as well as our payroll transaction testing. We also supplement that with other tests, okay? We pick certain dollar amounts that we want to look at and then, you know, sometimes I'll just say, hey, let's look at let's look at those. Let's look at something else, okay? So the basis is statistical. It has to be. You have to test government entity, you have to test transactions. You have to test controls. It's required in all governmental audits, which this is.
And you find those expenses to be somewhat on par with other school districts? Do you make that comparison at all?
No, not really. Every district is different. Every district has different demographics. They have different goals, different structure, different revenue streams. For example, you don't have a lot of state aid, but that's common knowledge. Other districts I do have a lot of state aid so it's all affected by the revenue stream, how you're capitalized, you know. In an ideal situation, this is not auditing, it's just fine. Ideally, you want to be able to balance your recurring expenses with recurring revenues. Sometimes districts can't get there, you know, and it's a heavy lift to try and move towards that because you're so dependent on fund balance and to rebuild the fund balance that it becomes a problem. But every district is different, you know, and different policies, different goals, different demands by parents that you try to meet. So yeah, it's really not comparable.
Thank you. Mr. Grosky, when would this CAFRA be available to the public online?
I wait till the board adopts it, which hopefully will be in a few minutes, and then I'll post both the comprehensive annual financial report and the auditor's management report tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
It's also available on, there's a state website that's called CAF Research. In the Department of Ed, you can look up audits from other districts going back about 8 or 9 years, but it takes a while for them to get on. You know, like the districts now, everyone's issuing a report, so it's kind of jammed up. We're one of the first guys out of the box, so we'll be up there soon.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, well, thank you for putting this together. I also want to thank you for explaining the importance of the reserve, right? Because we often use that. We've looked to that reserve a number of times for different projects that we wouldn't have been able to do, or we'd have to go out and do a referendum for, and we've been lucky enough to be able to draw on that fund. So I think it's just also important for all of us to remember that when it comes time to keep that fund replenished, that we continue to do that, because when it comes pinch time, you know, we've looked at that a lot for roof replacement, for things like that, where it's really come in handy. So.
Madam?
Yes, Mr.
With regard to
Gorski?
capital reserve, there was approximately $90,000 left after the money was dedicated through the budget. However, the board dedicated about $670,000 of that additional state aid award last year, which was post this audit, to go back into and replenish the capital reserve. So there'll be a balance in there of about $740,000, once again. Which is not a lot for a district this
No,
size, and
it's not.
we should keep an eye on it. Yes.
Any other questions? Mrs. Lang?
More of a comment than a question. I was lucky enough to spend Friday morning with Rupa and Kathy going through the CAFR with Mr. Gorski and really getting a great understanding for it. And I just want to urge the public, if you have questions about where your money is going, where we are financing, this document is so valuable and to go through. And even there's a whole section on page I'll tell you in a second because I have it marked, 143, that outlines the growth of the district over the past 10 years and what school enrollment we have. And I think for anybody who's doubting that we need to work toward the referendum and work toward the needs of our students, this document explains how fiscally responsible the board has been and just how much there is a need for our additional school spaces. So I just want to say thank you to Mr. Gorski, to Mrs. Allen. She was wonderful to work with, and to the staff. And, you know, I am afraid of numbers. I have an issue, but I understood this. And I understand where our money is going and the different things. And I greatly appreciate all the hard work of our finance committee also, of keeping up a good job. Thank you.
Mr. Ryback?
I just want to mention, in listening to Mrs. Stankowicz's report, I know how hard we all work as far as saving the taxpayers as much money as we can and being cost effective. And I'd just like to mention the importance of the early childhood enrichment and Falcon Care programs. Those programs are really a source of income to this board that we use to keep costs down, that save the taxpayers money. I don't think we really mention it enough, and this is a perfect time to mention how beneficial those programs are.
Anyone else?
I actually just remembered one question. When I was reading this, it says that our food service Mets that we've hired, they're a nonprofit. Is that correct? I think it said in here.
No.
METS is a for-profit organization.
Okay.
The food service fund is,
I'm sorry?
the food service fund is supposed to be a not-for-profit.
So the food service fund that
Yeah.
we have.
Your fund,
The board, the
Our
district.
fund is not-for-profit.
yeah.
Okay, I
It is, and
misunderstood.
but it's not for loss either. You're not supposed
No,
to
I
lose money.
understand. I
And
understand
you
there's a
can't
limit.
make too much money.
Right, okay. Then I misunderstood in here because it's, so it's our fund that is nonprofit, it's not Mets. Yeah, that's what I have.
That's correct. We have 3 enterprise funds. The cafeteria fund, which, as Mr. Stankiewicz said, is designed to break even every year. That's federally and state funded in part, as well as the student lunch prices go into that. So there's a design not to have too large of a profit in that fund. So we sway back and forth every year but we do have enough retained earnings to keep it solvent, which is the most important thing. Other boards of education transfer money from the general fund to the cafeteria fund to subsidize it. We never have. And the two other proprietary funds that are unrestricted, Falcon Care and ECE, have made $1.6 million in their first 3 years of operations, and that's unrestricted money that the board can use.
And you said that the Mets made about $3 million? So
No.
No?
Our food service operation is approximately $3 million.
The operation?
Our operation, yeah, which
Our
is,
operational
which is a nice business, even though it's not a business, but it's run like a business. Yeah, it's a $3 million operation, so it's not,
And we can only, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, because these are just notes I made. The net cash cannot exceed 3 months' average expenditures?
yes.
That's page 7.
That's in the thin document.
Yes.
Yes, it's a statutorily required calculation that they.
So our net cash,
Our net cash resources, yes,
Okay.
cannot exceed 30% of the operating expenses net of depreciation.
okay. One more que- The USDA commodities received by Monroe amount to $155,731. Is that cheese? I mean, no, what do we get?
Yeah, that's everything except pink slime.
Except what?
You may recall a few years
Yes,
ago, that was
I
an
know what
issue.
pink slime
We've
is.
never accepted pink slime.
God.
It's cheese, it's government surplus commodities that Nancy Mitrusek and I apply for every year. It's a lot of work to apply for it and get these commodities and account for them and inventory them and use them properly. We do, some other districts don't, but it subsidizes and keeps the lunch cost down
It's-
because it's a free ingredient that you're
It's
using.
actual food commodities,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's a solid
Absolutely,
commodity.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And he's not kidding. There was a pink, we did turn down the pink slime.
We did.
Yeah.
I remember.
I remember that. That was a
Yes.
big thing.
Anyone else? Okay, I'd
It was a
also
filler.
would like to congratulate the business office because we have been a growing district, and we still have the same amount of members or people working in the business office that we've had for years, and they continue to do more and more work each year. And obviously, they're doing a great job because we keep getting an unqualified opinion. So they need to be thanked very much because of what they do, and they always work hard, and they're always there, and they always have every time I've seen them, they have a smile on their face, and they're doing their job. So they really do need to be congratulated for their job. So if there's no other questions, we will have a roll call, Mr. Gorski.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Tefano.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, the board has unanimously accepted the CAFR, AMR, and corrective action plan, which indicates that there are no recommendations for the year ended June 30, 18, and I will submit the comprehensive annual financial report, the AMR, and the federal single audit information to everybody that's required, and post this on our website as we have done in previous years. And I extend a warm invitation to anybody who wants to come in and go over this. We're very happy to go through this. It's a lot of information to compile every year, and it's a shame just to put it on the shelf. There's a lot of good information in here about our borrowing capacity, about Monroe's specific unemployment rate. You'd be surprised what's in here.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gorski. At this time, we'll go to our student, thank you, Mr.
Have a good night.
Stankiewicz.
Thank you, Mrs. Stank.
Thank you.
Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll go to our student board members report, board member report.
Thank you. I don't know if I could be as comprehensive as the last presentation. Several high school students took the New Jersey Sealed by Literacy test. Also, the Spanish Honor Society will be holding a dance-a-thon next week to raise money for Operation Smile, an organization that helps children with cleft deformities. The Monroe Township FBLA held a karaoke fundraiser with proceeds going to the March of Dimes. The Monroe Township High School Media Center is hosting a one-book read on Tuesday, the 26th. And Oak Tree Elementary held a PJ for Police Day, and all proceeds went to the help sponsor local Monroe policemen participating in the Police Unity Tour. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, number 8 on our agenda is closed session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, and JSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21, to discuss the following subject: pending litigation, Michael G. Kozak, ED versus Board of Education of the Township of Monroe, Middlesex County, OAL docket number EDU 07970-18. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
So moved.
So, Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Ryback, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then at this time, we will go into closed session. We will be there approximately 30 minutes, and then we will come out. Okay, at this time, the board will move back into public session, and Mr. Goodall will read a resolution.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the previously submitted settlement agreement and general release in the matter entitled Michael G. Kozak, EDD, versus Monroe Township Board of Education, before the Commissioner of Education, capital OAL docket, number, capital EDU, numbers 07970-2018S. The Board President and Business Administrator / Board Secretary are hereby authorized and directed to take all necessary steps to implement the aforesaid settlement agreement dated February 13th, 2019.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, Mr. Mayo and Mrs. Lang. Is there any comments or questions? Then we will have a roll call on this matter.
Mrs. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Tefano,
Yes.
Mrs. Colapanowicz.
Yes,
On the Board President, motion passes unanimously.
thank you very much. And at this time, we'll go to committee reports. Are there any committees that need to report this evening, Mr. Mayo?
I have a committee report.
Okay.
We had a lovely curriculum meeting today. The first thing we discussed was the computer science and coding curriculum document for middle school. This course has been designed to introduce and expose middle school students to the world of coding and its relevance, in 21st century society. Students of all abilities and educational backgrounds in grade 8 are encouraged to engage in this rapidly growing field within academic and the professional arenas. Units of study include problem solving and the design process, web development, digital animation, and gaming and programming for robotics. This course is the first of its kind at the middle school level and will ultimately evolve to fit within the district's engineering and robotics initiative. Introductory robotics programs will include Sphero, Finch, and Vex Robotics. This new course and its subsequent future will be discussed at the next Monroe Township School District Engineering and Robotics Steering Committee meetings. We also discussed the Monroe Township Middle School Math Competition Team. It's an extracurricular that's proposed at the middle school. The current middle school math competition club uses STEM teachers to prepare students for math counts as part of the TAG program. 2 teachers are being paid at the instructional rate as a club to prepare students for the February 2nd, 2019 competition at Union County College, and there are 2 teachers administer the AMC 8 competition as well and the Math League competition. The proposed middle school mathematics competition team, the goal for the 2019-2020 proposal, the goal is to create a competitive team approach toward multiple mathematic competitions appropriate at the middle school grade level. 2 advisors will advise the team working to instill a friendly, competitive environment using goals of the Math Olympiad for elementary and middle school program. This is to stimulate enthusiasm and a love for mathematics, to introduce important mathematical concepts, to teach major major strategies for problem solving, to develop mathematical flexibility in problem solving, to strengthen mathematical intuition, to foster mathematical creativity and ingenuity, and to provide for the satisfaction, joy, and thrill of meeting challenges. The math team will run during the club times 90 minutes weekly throughout the year. 2 teams for up to 30 students each will be selected to participate through the year. A year-long commitment is an expectation from the students, and competitions will include, but not be limited to, AMC 8, Math Counts, Math League, and Math Olympiad. We also discussed human trafficking, and I want to thank Patty Lang for bringing this to the curriculum meeting. She had been to the League of Women Voters presentation on human trafficking, and we had 2 of the League of Women Voters there during this presentation, and I would like to thank them for coming, and I think I'm going to turn this over to Patty to discuss a little bit more about the human trafficking.
Thank you, Jill. Earlier this month, Kathy, Ken, Peter, Andy, Rupa, and Michelle and myself all attended the human trafficking presentation by the League of Women Voters. I've been a member of the League for a little over a year before, so I had been working with these ladies a little bit beforehand. And the League of Women Voters recognizes that human trafficking in all of its forms is probably one of the fastest raising crimes, and it targets mostly, very often it targets our young people. So the League of Women Voters really wanted to partner with the school district so that we could educate our children about the dangers and we can educate parents. So we had brought the information to Dr. Alvick, and Dr. Alvick is going to take some of the curriculums that the League of Women Voters provided us with information from other school districts like Prince William County in Maryland. Thank you. And good information like that. And just in that curriculum committee meeting, and I always rave about our curriculum committee because they're fantastic. And the supervisors, as we were talking about the problems of human trafficking and why this has to be a priority, the educating of our kids, because prevention is really the only tool that we have to put an end to human trafficking at this point. So education and prevention is what will save people's lives going forward. And the enthusiasm from the supervisors and their willingness to talk with Dory to see where this can come into our civics and everything like that we're doing and where it can fall into our curriculum is really something that I was very excited about. So Dory's going to be meeting with her supervisors and talking about it. We do know that the Monroe Township High School Rho Kappa Honor Society is continuing this. They're going to have a meeting. They work with their advisor, Jackie Abruzzi, and they're on March 14th, they're going to have a presentation in the PAC about becoming an abolitionist. How do you fight slavery in today's world? And that they're going to be charging $2 fee to help offset costs and to do some fundraising. But I think this is a great thing for us going forward. And I think any of us who were at the meeting got a lot of information from that first one and then the one today. So I appreciate that we were able to bring it to curriculum and get it looked at.
Thank you, Patty. That was very comprehensive.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other committee reports? Mr. Ryback.
I just wanted to mention one thing that I can talk about from the Personnel Committee, is that the Personnel Committee is looking into the feasibility of raising the pay rate for per diem subs. We looked at a comparison of all the school districts in Middlesex and noticed that we weren't all that competitive, and that a lot of the people that were subbing here are now working in other districts. So the committee, certainly the consensus of the committee was that we be a little bit more competitive, so that's something that we're investigating. We're also looking to increase our pool of subs by trying to attract newly appointed teachers as well as retirees. So I guess ultimately we'll have more substitutes available to us.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Ryback on that. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's very important. From what I understand, and please, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, we're having a problem finding enough subs who will come in, and part of that is pay rate, I'm guessing. And then we're asking, in some cases, for teachers to use prep time or whatever, and they're covering classes. Now, I know they get a per diem stipend or something for that, but still, I don't think that's the best case scenario when you have prep time should be prep time, and lunchtime should be lunchtime, that kind of thing. So is that right? I mean, is that one of the things that is happening now, and one of the things that, one of the reasons why we need to really make this?
Because we're less competitive, it seems that a lot of county-approved substitutes go to other districts for a higher rate of pay, which when we have a shorthanded situation at each school, we ask teachers to cover that during either their prep time or their duty time, and we compensate them, and it's not cost efficient as well, and it also taxes the teacher. They're typically not as prepared as the regular teacher would have been, so when they cover, it's more of a supervision piece than actual instructional piece. So we think if we explore increasing our rate of pay, that will bring better quality substitutes back to the district.
Great, thank you.
If I can, I'd just like to add, a benefit of increasing the pool is being able to get subs that have an expertise in the area in which they're subbing. And I think that's, a problem in most districts. You want to certainly get, especially if it's somebody's going to be out for a while, you want to get somebody that has a certificate in whatever that curriculum area is. So that can only serve to benefit us in there, that way as well.
Mr. Pelori?
A quick question, Mr. Rayback. I 100% support the idea that we got to be competitive in the marketplace, but have you given some thought, or I'm assuming you do, in terms of its impact to the budget? Or is there a line item that's being allocated for that kind of?
Mr. Mayo?
So one thing we discussed was that the teachers who sub during their period get paid for a full day. So it's very expensive to use teachers. So by getting more subs and not asking the teachers to give up their prep time, we will actually be saving some money. And I think Mike estimated about $17,000 a year.
Yeah, there's an offsetting higher premium that was being paid to the teacher coverage that's saved with the sub piece. And yes, we do have available resources in the budget to increase the sub rate of pay. That's something that we talked about for a while, and we have a reserve for that.
If I can, I should explain it, maybe you can understand it in real life terms. As a principal, if I had to cover a program and I had to hire 4 or 5 regular teachers and pay them coverages, that would cost more than hiring a sub for the whole day.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, any other committee reports? Mr. Chiarella?
Yes, thank you. We had a Buildings, Grounds, and Transportation meeting on 2/5, and we had several topics that we discussed, and some of those are in our agenda tonight. The first thing we had was the girls soccer announcement board for the stadium field house. So we as a committee have asked for us to move forward with that. Athletic Director Greg Byer will pursue a universal board for all sports, but right now what's missing is a girls soccer announcement board, and they at no cost to the district. The girls soccer team, they want to take that and fund it and put a board up there so that they could put their announcements out there, and we thought that was a good idea. So we're asking to move that forward. We also had Sergeant Jangles in from the Monroe Township Police Department. They had a request for us to put flashing lights at 2 schools. So for instance, at the high school here, when you're coming up the hill, you don't know, it's dark, and you don't know really where that 25-mile-an-hour zone starts or where the kids are. And so they were requesting that, which we thought was a good idea. But the board, the council, the committee asked that we also look at some other ways to fund that, to maybe work something out with the township or with the county. to pay for the signs themselves, or some kind of agreement where we could maybe offset the cost of the district itself. That is going to be pursued. It's going to be looked into. We don't know if that we're going to be able to do that. But what we did ask, and what we're asking you all to approve, is for the engineering portion of that, so that when we go to those entities, we're able to say, this is where we need those signs, this is what we're looking for, this is where they're going to go, and have a good written plan as to what we need. Just so you know, there was also a follow-up to that where our administration went to Alan Weinberg. Mr. Weinberg is the BA for the township, and they're currently looking into that. They're going to go to the mayor and talk that through. Now, one of my favorite topics is we also reviewed the annual, don't laugh at me, Andy, the annual IPM program review. So I love this program, and Jerry Tague makes fun of me every year because I do love it. But what the IPM program is, it's integrated pest management. It's a way for us to minimize the amount of chemicals and things like that we use to go after pests, which means less chemicals in the environment, less chances that our children will come in contact with dangerous chemicals and things like that. And we have a great program here. So we reviewed the plan again. We're asking this to put that plan forward again as it is. It went through review by all the building administration and the administration of each school, and everyone was happy with the way it currently is. But Patty, I know you're looking at, but things like mint keep mice away. There's all kinds of amazing things.
Peppermint, and you put it into your dish, your soap when you're washing your kitchen floor. It keeps ants out of your house.
That's right. So and there are instances where we have to use chemicals, and when that happens, we do send information home. We do email. We let the parents know that there could be, that the chemicals are going to be used. So, but anyway, it's a great program, and that's on our agenda. We also saw the bid reviews, and administration presented the snowplow contract and recommended that we remain using the current the current company that we're using, and that also does not have an increase for the school year. So no cost increase for us, which is always a good thing. And then the last thing that we reviewed are bus cameras. So on the outside. So sorry, I had to have a drink. One of the things that I noticed an article where down south in North Carolina and Virginia, there are bus cameras on the outside of the buses. And we've had a lot of issues with people going around buses. I don't know if it's just, if I'm just hypersensitive and I'm noticing it, or if there's just more of it. But it seems like everywhere I look, there are people, on Facebook and Twitter, just saying, showing videos of buses, of cars going around buses, kids loaded, which is just a horrible, horrible thing. And so I just asked that we look into maybe getting these cameras ourselves, where we could see the license plate, maybe even position them so that we could see who's in the car, and so that we could then move forward and maybe prosecute these people as they, put our children in jeopardy, in harm's way. Sergeant Jangles, who was already there for the flashing lights, said that he didn't know about the legalities, but he's going to look into it and get back to us and see if it's something that we can do, and then if it was cost effective and those kind of things. But it was just something that we're going to look into. So when he brings that information back, then our committee will report back out to the full board. But I think, at some point, if it's legal and we could do it, that is something that we should probably look into doing, because I think it would help keep our children safe and start prosecuting the people who are breaking the law. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Rutsky.
So I'll conclude with the Finance Committee. Oh, you go next? You want to go now? No. Okay. So the Finance Committee met last Tuesday, and we basically got a preview of the CAFR report from Mr. Stankiewicz. So we basically knew ahead of time, which was nice, that there was, as Mr. Stankiewicz represented, there were no audit recommendations, there were no audit comments, and the auditor's opinion letter expressed an unmodified, or what is known as a clean opinion on the financial statements. And so that was a little bit of an opportunity to do a Q&A, drill down a little deeper and basically just confirm what we had already believed and what everybody here tonight heard about.
All good things.
All good things.
Yes. Mrs. Lang?
Okay, policy committee. So, I lost my microphone. We had our policy committee last week, and I have to say, this is a great committee to be working with this year. We do have on the agenda today the following bylaws that are approved by the committee for reaffirmation. Kathy and Rupa and I attended a NJSBA training this past weekend, and one of the things that they brought up is that the policy, this is the time to be reviewing your entire policy committee. So we're right on target.
Our policy book.
Yes, your entire policy book, and updating, pulling out things that are not important and things like that. So just to once again explain how we're going through the policies to decide which can just be put in for reaffirmation is that we're using a list of updated policies that and school boards has put out in Strauss SMA to make sure that if we have met the statutory requirements, and if there's been no statutory requirements and the policy is still applicable, then it is being reviewed by administration and including Mary Smith, just to make sure that it's all okay, and then it's brought to the policy committee. So this month we did the bylaws, and next month we're going to be starting the next section, with, if anybody wants to have fun reading, is section 1000, which is administration. So you can start looking at the different policies. And then in our policy, oh, I just lost my notes, I'm sorry. We also had to approve the new sending district policy that covers sending and receiving district. We are putting on for a first reading the policy regarding, and I apologize, I'm not feeling so good tonight, and my voice just went out the window. But the policies, we have the sending receiving district policy. and
The ones that are on the agenda.
We
for
have
this
the ones
evening
that
has
are
been-
in-
we've looked through them all.
Yeah, so
for approval.
they're all good agendas, and there were a couple, the other day I wanted to thank Mr. Goodall, I'm really, feeling good all of a sudden, for putting, the policy notes are now on board docs, so anybody else who wants to see what we're doing in policy committees, you can just pull up the policy notes and see what we talked about. Okay? Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Patty. Okay, at this time, we'll go to public forum. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to the agenda, please come to the microphone, give your name and address for the record. We will adhere to our 4-minute timeline. When the timer goes off, your time is over. And per our policy, you're only allowed to come to the microphone once per public forum, and this is for agenda items only. So if it's not on the agenda,
it's not.
then you have to wait for the second
Oh,
public
okay.
forum.
Okay, thanks.
Prakash Parab, 33 Dana Drive. Today, let me see what the time is. 9:18. The public forum, 9:18. How many parents are there? They came and went home. 7 o'clock, the meeting starts, and public forum, 9:18, 9:30. When the parents can come and speak. So last year I said that we should have public forum earlier, and we all said that we have to change the policies, and I don't see it to be discussed into the policies. Yeah. So the next thing is referendum.
The referendum is not on the agenda.
Yeah. So the question is, the resolution is passed by our council to have a law for collection of, impact fees.
The impact fees are not on the agenda.
Yeah, I know that. Nothing is on the agenda, so I know that.
Well,
It
then
is
you
not-
cannot speak if something is not on the agenda.
Okay, I'll speak of what is on the agenda.
What is on the agenda?
I will speak to that.
The
I will speak to
impact
that.
fees
I
are-
saw today's report on the auditing. And if you look at that, if I'm correct, it is $122 million, something our budget is. And in that, 35 million are for the benefits, isn't it?
Mr. Gorski?
Benefits is a broad category. It includes health benefits, it includes pension contributions, and some other items. And the health benefits is about a gross premium of 24 million.
So the 24 million is
Staff
for the,
contributions down
okay.
to about 18 million.
Yeah, so 24 million what we are giving for the current. That's okay, thank you, that is for the correction. So if I'm correct, per student, how much we are spending per student in the high school, per student in the middle school, and per student in the elementary school. If you take total, it comes to around 17,900. But do you categorize how much we spend per student in high school versus middle school and elementary school, and what was in the past 2 years and what we are doing at present? Can we see that in that calculation?
That calculation you're referring to is available in a couple different places. Number one, it's in the budget documents every year, where it's a budgeted cost per pupil for those various grade levels that you mentioned. Also, we have, as part of our A41, A42 calculation that certifies the tuition costs with the state, they give us actual, not budgeted, but actual per pupil costs for those grade levels. And you can get a plethora of other information that compares us with like-kind districts on the Taxpayer Guide to Educational Spending.
My
which is
question,
available
okay, I
online.
understand now. The how much money we received from the government, I see $17 million there. That's correct? What, we got some $17 million in that sheet is there, looks like $17 million. That's correct? If you want, I can bring it.
I didn't think it was that much, but if you're picking up the on behalf payments that the state makes for us, it could be that high.
Yeah, because
But the
state
state aid is
source, it says
not that
17 million there. That's correct?
I'd have to see the document you're referring to, but
This is
that
the
seems high.
Yeah,
That must include the on
That's the
behalf
sheet
payments.
which is distributed.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, the funding from the state. So this is here I can speak about. This is on the sheet here. So I'm saying that we are not getting adequate funding from the state, so we have to have a resolution similar to our council passed, having a law so that
Thank you, Mr. Parab.
Yeah. So I want to hear from you all. This is too late, 9:20, coming for the public forum.
Is anybody else from the public wishing to speak to the agenda? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close public forum and go to the superintendent's report. Mr. Goodall?
Thank you. In keeping in updating the community on our referendum scheduled for March 12th, if it's a little bit redundant, I apologize, but we're trying to keep on message. The steering committee has been very active in strategizing and implementing our plan to promote the school referendum scheduled for March 12, 2019. The committee continuously meets to ensure transparent and accurate communication is distributed to our residents, especially parents, so informed decisions can be made by each voter on March 12th. The district administration continues its tour of Monroe Township at several planned presentations throughout the community, including many of our planned retirement communities. I appreciate the willingness of all of our residents to listen to the needs of the district, and many of our completed presentations resulted in very favorable feedback on our plan. A big thank you to our parent organizations for scheduling local presentations in neighborhood schools. I know that families have different perspectives all over town, so we try to present information geared to their interest. Please reference our district referendum page on our website for up-to-date scheduling for the parent organization presentation schedule. As mentioned previously, continued thanks to MTEA for their partnership and active support for our plan and their efforts to communicate the importance of the vote. We have two district-wide public presentations. Our next one is February 21st, 2019 at the high school auditorium at 7 p.m. And then we scheduled another one March 11th, 2019 at the Monroe Township Rec Center at 7 p.m., the day before the referendum vote. So we continue to encourage residents to seek information on the referendum from our district Facebook referendum page, district Twitter, our mobile app, and district referendum website page. We will be constantly sending the community updates. Look for these district social media sites for accurate and transparent information on our referendum. Please mark your calendars to make an informed vote on March 12, 2019. I've been updating the school community on our efforts to communicate and be more inclusive of our students with special needs and their families in neighborhood schools and across the district. At our last CPAG meeting, we had a panel discussion on student placement, inclusion, reading programs, and other important topics with parents that were very informational for parents and the administration on challenges parents and teachers face in and out of the classroom. I'd like to thank Mrs. Marietta Ruella, Ms. Monica Hines, and school psychologist Ms. Irene Barata for being a part of the panel with me. We have our next CPAG meeting tentatively scheduled for March 14th in the High School Media Center at 7 p.m. More details to follow. And also I got this from Mr. Byer, our athletic director. Congratulations to the Monroe Township boys varsity bowling team who won the Central Jersey Group 4 state championship. This is our second championship in 3 years. Congratulations, Coach Marissa Guerrera and the players, and good luck tomorrow as they look to win the overall Group 4 final championship, and that's at the Bolero Lanes, Route 130 in North Brunswick. So good luck to the boys bowling team. We have some personnel items to be approved. Madam Board President and members of the Board of Education, it is recommended that personnel action items A through AE under the superintendent report be approved by consent roll call.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Chiarella and Mr. Ryback, are there any comments or questions for Mr. Goodall? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Tefano.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, personnel items A through AE has passed.
Thank you.
Madam Board President and members of the Board of Ed, it is recommended that board action items A through Q be approved by consent roll call. Please, with the exception of item number K, please strike K.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Chiarella and Mr. Ryback, again, any comments or questions for Mr. Goodall? Ms. Arminio?
Yes, I have some questions about the policy. First, the reaffirming of some of the policies. I'll start with policy, it's really a bylaw 0131. The bylaw, the place that I would like to have reconsideration of this language. On number 2, it suggests for a new or revised bylaw or policy may be referred at the discretion of the president and as appropriate to the subject to the superintendent, a board committee, or a public advisory committee for a study. But my concern is the discretion of the president. I would hope that it would go first to the committee and should always be, if the language means that only the board president may refer a new or revised bylaw policy, I would have an objection to that because I think that could be subjective, and I would hope that we could clear that language up. If it means that any of the above in that paragraph should be able to recommend it, that would be a different story. So I would just like clarification on paragraph 2 of the bylaw 131, page 2 of 3. So I would ask that we can hold that reaffirmation until such time as we get clarification for that paragraph. That's on 101. The bylaw 167, that is public participation in the meeting. It does state on number 3 of the bylaw 0167, page 1 of 3. On the first page, it does state at number 3, three public forums, but I would also like that the first two paragraphs should state that there are three public forums, just to make sure that it's clear that there will be three public forums in our agenda. I know we have that now, but I don't know if we need to have it stated in the beginning of that bylaw. So again, I'd like that to be considered before it's reaffirmed. Excuse me?
Our attorney looked at these policies and said they were fine.
I understand that, but that's sort of my point about unilateral recommendations. I am asking, as a board member, that we take a look at this, I mean, because we're voting on as a reaffirmation. So as a board member now, I'm asking that that would be acceptable, to take a look at that and just add it. I don't think there's any harm in adding it to the language. Is our attorney still here? She is.
I believe that in the policy, it says public forum number 1, public forum number 2, and public forum number 3, and what each of them are for.
So you're saying that we don't...
Is that correct, Mrs. Lang?
Yes.
We don't need the bylaw to represent the same language that the policy has?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
Not that.
Okay, I would ask us to take a look at that, but if you're saying that that the three public forums are secured in the policy, I would accept that. The next one, policy that is for the first reading tonight, policy and regulation 7510. 7510, use of school facilities.
Yeah, that one was a change by the insurance broker needed us to put in that Monroe is held harmless, so we need to be named in that policy as the other insured. So anybody outside organization using our facilities, so that's what the change in that policy is.
Okay, well, we've had some discussion, heated at times, about Class 1 users.
Yes, and I'll address that.
May I ask my question first,
no,
please?
because it's actually really simple. What we are going to do is, this is the first reading just because Mary needed this to be added so that it was addressing the need of our insurance broker, but this policy is actually going to be coming back. So your question is actually being answered because it hasn't been addressed yet, and that's what we as the policy committee had agreed to.
Well, I would appreciate being able to ask my question before I'm stopped, especially since the president had given me the floor. So the question was, because it exists, and I'm always worried about if we don't do something the right way on a first reading, and it goes to the second reading, and then we're told that it doesn't work, that on the education foundations, PTOs, PTAs, and PSA would be added as the previous board, we talked about any parent organization that had the right certifications and everything should be included. So I don't know if it's semantics, but I think that should be included in the first reading.
Well, that is not something that the board or the committee has looked at again. Again, Mrs. Lang said, and she's correct, that there was a piece that we had to put in there right now from the insurance company. So we're doing that, so that makes that in there, that works, and then we will be revisiting that again in future policy meetings.
So what does that mean if this is a second reading? So will it be?
We're just trying to get the insurance piece in the policy, and we're doing some research and legwork, especially with our parent organizations, about things they want to do with some changes to legislation and how we can line up our policies with that. So we're going to revisit that once we meet. And unfortunately, yesterday, because of the snow day, I wasn't able to meet with the parent organizations to get that info.
So it's a deliberate situation where you are leaving that out because it hasn't been discussed yet. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yes. And it will be addressed. It's on.
Okay, then.
It was a time of the essence situation that the insurance company needs that wording changed immediately. And the only way to do it was to put it through before we got a chance to really put it. It was on the list that the committee was going to be talking about, but we couldn't put it forward, the rest of it, but this has to be done immediately. The insurance broker gave us time of the essence.
Okay, and I understand that,
First and second
but
read.
since we have a legitimate PSA that is functioning, I don't understand why that couldn't have been put on here. And then again, if you were going to revisit the policy and change that, that would have been acceptable. But clearly, there's an issue with that, and I do see as something that was left out on
And
purpose.
if I believe I'm
Okay,
correct,
I'm done.
that we made a, that we had asked Mr. Goodall at the last meeting to do to look into that situation.
But
And he's
again,
doing that. We can't fix a,
Mr. Arminio,
We voted on it last year, sir. We had it voted, it's a legitimate organization as far as I understand it. It should have been, if you were going to revise this policy and it is in existence, it should have been put in here as a recognized organization. And if you wanted to change it down the road, then fine. But right now, it's a legitimate organization that was voted on in the affirmative last year, and I just think there's something,
the specific naming of parent organizations, we most certainly could look into that are recognized by our board. The intent of putting this policy up now was just to address the insurance piece, and we're going to revisit, and we explained that in the policy committee, looking at the policy again where it needs to be updated, and especially looking at fundraisers that are games of chance to make sure that we have it lined up and every parent organization is doing the right thing. It really had nothing to do with specific parent organizations, acronyms that needed to be added. It was more about the games of chance piece and the use of facilities.
so there would have been no harm to put that name on there. But
We
that's fine, I'm
didn't
gonna
get
vote
to
no.
that revision yet.
Well, we did get to it. We didn't get to the revision, but it was voted on at the last year's board. And
I
so it's
understand.
an existing situation. So it would have been actually a courtesy, I think, to have included it. But thank you.
any other comments or questions? Okay, then we'll have a roll call. Mr. Gorski.
Board action items A through Q with the exception of K. Mrs. Arminio.
Yes on everything except no on N031, no on N067, and certainly no on O7510.
So noted. Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Tefano.
Yes.
Mrs. Colapanowicz.
Yes,
Madam Board President, board action items A through Q with the exception of K has passed.
thank you. And does that conclude your report?
That concludes the
Mr. Goodall?
superintendent's report.
Then we will go on to the business administrator's report. Mr. Gorski.
Thank you. I'd just like to introduce two items on my report of significance. Professional appointments, number one. There's a recommendation here that the Board of Education approve Edwards Engineering Group to provide survey and construction management services to the Board of Ed for flashing school zone speed signs at a cost of $10,240 plus bid phase expenses at an additional cost of $22,750 if needed. Now, this is for the engineering work for blinking street signs, as was discussed with the BG&T committee notes before. Subsequent to the committee meeting, Mr. Tague and I met with township officials Alan Weinberg and George Lang, no relation to our board member Patty Lang. And we solicited the township's help in paying for not only the engineering costs as being proposed tonight, but the entire cost of the project, which could range somewhere in the vicinity of $120,000. And it was warmly received and taken back to the officials for determination, and I'm optimistic, waiting for the results. Yes. Letter G, also in my report. Security vestibules at Applegarth School, Brookside School, Monroe Township High School, Monroe Township Middle School, and Barclay Brook School. I remind everybody and point out to the new members that this was part of the board's budget priority during the budget philosophy stage. It was determined that some schools had vestibules that were allowed for safe entrance into school and screening of people coming in, but all of these that I just mentioned did not. So this is a major capital outlay expenditure that the board's engaging in to improve security infrastructure at 5 of our schools. We do not have an amount yet because this is asking permission to submit it to the state for review and to revise the long-range facility plan accordingly. We will go out to bid after they're approved. And what's noteworthy here too is, unlike Princeton schools, which we've been compared to recently, who put out a referendum and bonded for these costs, we're doing it in our cap in our general fund budget, saving all of the interest costs that would have accumulated on that bond issuance. So, Madam Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through I be approved by consent roll call.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Ryback, any comments or questions for Mr. Gorski? Ms. Arminio?
Just clarification on 7, the Horizon Healthcare staffing, and that's merely for our substitute nurses, and just what it says, the physical, speech, and occupational therapy, and just and substitute nurses, right? Because the contract or the agreement, the clinical staffing agreement, seemed to add a lot of other things, but our only purpose is what is on the agenda, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I think just a little bit of a explanation of the transfer 6.
Yes.
There were a lot of transfers, is that it? Go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you.
Regarding budget transfers, they are a result of administration's management of the budget. And what do I mean by that? There are hundreds of budget accounts going down to individual cost center school amounts. And it is a task to go through the entire budget, review every single account to make sure that the appropriation that the board approved with the initial budget is satisfactory to make it through the 12-month school year. And we have various determination methods to look into that. Additionally, often principals and directors, almost on a weekly basis, submit budget revisions and budget adjustments. For example, they budgeted for a widget and they want to exchange it for something else in a different line item category. So to allow the flexibility in the classroom, we would make a budget adjustment, and it would have a net zero effect on the budget as these transfers do. A withdrawal of funds on the transfer list is shown as a credit, and an infusion of funds on the budget account is shown as a debit. And in no instance can we overexpend a line item. So this transfer list is tailoring and management of the budget. And as you know, we have a very large budget. We have very dynamic circumstances with special education in particular, where we have one student who could literally come in and make it go from 8 students per teacher to 9, and then we have to add another staff member that wasn't budgeted for. So this transfer is normal and customary. Every other school district has similar transfers. They're within our 10% limit where we would have to seek county approval. So I hope that answered the question.
So the top one, the $140,000, is that another $140,000, or is that the same one we voted on a while ago?
It is not the same one you voted on a while ago. It is a new budget transfer.
Okay.
So quite often circumstances could occur which cause us to revise previous transfers by offsetting it with new transfers.
Okay, and they can go from one department to another without issue?
Yes.
Okay.
And had we not engaged in this management of the budget, then when requests come through for new staffing or flexibility in school-based expenditures, or, for example, snow plowing expenses very understated to what we had put in the budget this year, we would have no aptitude to change anything, and a lot of folks would be told no. So this is affording flexibility and instruction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Very quick, I'll try to
Mr.
be very
Polari?
quick. Mr. Groski, on the item A, number 1, so the intent is that you're going to move forward with the engineering drawings and specifications and get reimbursement possibly from the township. So we're not waiting for the township to commit before we engage the engineering firm. Is that correct?
Yeah, to put it another way, we're taking the risk tonight by approving this, that if the township comes back and says, no, we will fit the bill for this, but I'm cautiously optimistic that the answer may come back and say, yes, not only will we pick up this, but we'll pay for the whole flashing sign project. And we did discuss the grant opportunities available to the township, the safe school grants that you brought up at the committee level, and they're going to pursue those for us, and along with some other available resources that
Excellent. Thank
Mr.
you.
Weinberg knows about.
Mr. Gorski, may I?
Yes,
Madam President?
Ms. Arminio?
Very quickly, did we ask them about the Department of Public Works, if they would construct our signs? Did that ever get discussed? I think that was something we talked about at the meeting. I thought that was a possibility as well. Because that, if the township does do that, it's really less on both ends.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, so don't hold me to it, but I don't think the DPW in Monroe Township has the sophistication or aptitude to make this type of sign
Because
that
it's
requires this
electronic.
type of engineering.
Okay.
It's a little more advanced than
But maybe in the
putting
future,
in like
just a
like
regular-
crosswalk sign or something.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, Mr. Gorski, may we have a roll call?
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes, except recuse on I, Patricia Lang.
So noted, thank you. Mr. Pelori.
Same recuse on item I. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ryback.
Yes, except I recuse on item I as well.
Thank you. Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes, and recuse on letter I.
Thank you. Mr. Stefano.
Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion passes. Board action A through I, and the individual recusals are for, under I, or not for the whole line item I, it's
For
for
their
those
names.
specific people's names. So
Right.
motion passes for that as well.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. At this time, we'll go to the board president's report. So I have three things this evening. The first is, there's been a lot of misinformation going around about the referendum on Facebook and in the community. So for anyone looking for correct information or accurate information, please make sure it's Monroe Township School District, coming from the Monroe Township School District, whether it's from the website, the referendum Facebook page, the district handouts, any presentations that we do throughout the community where we're giving out information, and mailings from the district to the residents, because sometimes we see that other people are using the Falcon, people think that it's now official, and it's not always from the Board of Education. So just make sure that you are getting the correct information from the correct sources. The second thing I have is, Patty mentioned this before, but last Saturday, Patty, Rupa, and I attended an excellent New Jersey School Board's workshop on making meetings work more efficiently. And for me, it reaffirmed the fact that we have been running our meetings the way that they are supposed to be run, both legally and through policy. In fact, our district goes over and beyond what the rest of New Jersey school districts do. As part of the folder of information received was a handout from the November-December 2018 issue of School Leader magazine entitled 13 Things School Board Members Wish People Knew About Them. I thought it was very important for those in the public to understand what some of our responsibilities are, so I asked to have this handout copied and available to those here this evening. So it looks like this. I hope you've had an opportunity to pick one up, and all the board members also received this. So I wanted to bring the attention of the public to number 7, because this item has come up numerous times over the years. At Board of Education meetings, the public comment period, or public forums, is for the members of the public to comment, not engage in a discussion with board members or a Q&A session. And this is all coming from school boards. If a member of the public has questions, school district staffers will sometimes answer, but most of the times will get back to the latter with the information requested. Boards are allowed to establish reasonable restrictions on time, place, and manner of public comment. For instance, school boards typically set guidelines on the length of an individual's timeline, for an individual's comment time, so no one person dominates the meeting. There is no required format for public comment. Some boards have one public comment period per meeting, others have more. Out of all the districts that we met that attended the workshop last Saturday, we were the only district that had 3 public forums. The rest had 2. We were the only board who had a 4-minute time limit. The rest had a 2 or 3-minute limit. And we were the only board who allowed for questions to be asked and answered at public board meetings. And I think that was a surprise to not only the people that attended that meeting, but to school board people who were holding the meeting, that we would do a Q&A, because they advised not to do that. A Board of Education meeting is one that is held in public. It is not a public meeting. So in the future, we're going to be looking to see, or relook at our district policies on public participation to see if it needs to be revisited or looked at again. And the third thing I have is at the January board meeting, I talked about the need to start the superintendent's search process. And since we had 4 board members who had never been in the process, who had never been involved in the search before, the board requested some training in this area, in the area of superintendent searches. So on March 4th, we had a representative from New Jersey School Boards come to a special meeting and discuss the search process with us and answer any of the questions that the board members had. What we learned was that the superintendent search process is a highly confidential process that only the board members can be involved in. The community and district staff can be involved only for input into the identification of district strengths and issues and for the establishment of criteria and credentials that they would like to see in a new superintendent. So at the last board meeting, I mentioned that this month we would have 2 questions that the board needed to decide. One, whether to do an internal posting only, or we open the search up out of district also. And after we decide on that, we need to decide on who will do the search, whether we will do it ourselves, whether we will use New Jersey School Boards, or we will use a search firm. So at this time, I think we need to talk about whether we're going to do an internal search posting, whether we're going to do a posting for an internal search, or we open up a search throughout the outside the district. So I'm going to open it up to the board members for comments and questions, and then we will have to end up taking a vote later on this subject. So, Mr. Chiarella?
It's more of a question. I mean, maybe it's just a comment. But when we use school boards in the past for that, now I know they're good with the trainings and stuff, but I don't remember us being particularly happy with the way they went about sourcing candidates and the things we got. And I remember at that point, and I'm talking a couple superintendents ago, we talked about maybe sourcing, doing it ourselves and searching. But I wasn't on the board when the Dr. Kozak, when Dr. Kozak was chosen. So I don't know what the board did at that point. But I was just wondering what the cost differentials were, and between going with school boards as opposed to an outside firm or doing it ourselves.
I haven't been through that process many times. Going back 2 superintendents ago, the board president at that time, which was not me, fired school boards in the middle of the process because we were not happy with the way things were going. We took on that responsibility ourselves, and it worked out. The last time we used school boards when we were looking at Dr. Kozak, and the first search did not yield any candidate, so we decided to, again, we were not happy with the way school boards was conducting that search, so we went with a search firm. We did get, and I don't think I have that with me, we did get information on the cost to use school boards. I believe the search firm did not cost us anything unless we hired one of their people, if I remember. We would have to pay for an ad no matter who we use, the information that we post in a lot of different places, we would have to pay for that ourselves. And I believe that was approximately $3,000.
Thank you.
If I may.
No.
It was $12,000.
If I recall correctly, I think at the last training session, the lady who gave us the presentation about the superintendent search gave it different categories of service that they provide. But however, she did also mention the fact that some of the resources in terms of where we can put the job posting up is free of charge because we are members of the NJSSA, the School Board Association. So I think I said this in the past, and I'm going to reiterate that again. We may have the best qualified candidate right under our nose within the district. However, I think it shows the transparency and also empowers whoever we select at the end of the search that they've gone through the due process. I recommend that we actually do both external and internal, or do it external so that the internal can also apply for the position.
Would you like to make that into a motion?
I would like to make that as a motion.
Okay, could you make it into a motion? Then Mr. Gorski will write it down, and then that would be the motion, and we would second, then we'd have comments or, discussion, and then we would vote on that.
I would like to make a motion to advertise the position of a superintendent in the external news media and seek candidates.
Is there a second to that?
Point of clarification?
Yeah.
Are you recommending an outside search firm to do the process? Or
No.
Just an internal handled search where we post
Well,
to
wait,
the
I
general
think
public?
it's not an internal search yet, but we're going to be not just posting internally,
Yes.
but posting.
External.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because we haven't decided how or who's going to do that
Got
yet.
it.
So it's just a matter of where we're going to be looking for a candidate for superintendent.
Got it.
So he made a motion. Is there a second to his motion?
I would second the motion with the understanding if he could amend the motion to say, are we going, do you want us to do it, or?
No,
are we
that's
just-
not the, that's not the.
That's not it. The
that's-
motion
right.
is just to
Do
go.
we just do it internally, seek
Are we doing an
candidates,
internal
or are we
search,
going external
or
also?
an?
No, what is your
I
motion?
don't understand what.
To go externally? Is that correct?
The question was that, do we conduct the search with the candidates who are internal to the district, or we go outside of the district
Right.
looking for candidates?
Right, but I
And
thought-
I'm making a motion to say that it should include both internal and external to show
No, I don't.
transparency.
They think you could do that.
You can.
Well, you do a search, you do
A
a search, you
search.
open a search for.
That's all I'm saying.
Right, and that's
That's
what
all I'm
he's trying
saying, open the
to say.
search
Because
up.
if you do open a search to anybody, an internal candidate can.
Can apply.
That's exactly
Right.
what I
But you don't
mean.
have, it doesn't need to be in the motion. If the motion, I will second it if, again, you amend the motion to say, we're going to do an external search. That does not preclude internal candidates.
No, it does not.
That's
No,
right.
that's what I
Okay, so
said.
just simple, no, but you went back and forth. So
I
you
did?
need to amend your
No,
resolution. and
my
I will-
mind is very, very, very clear.
Okay.
I think we need to empower the candidate we're gonna hire at the end of the day. There may be a candidate right under our nose in the district who may be available, but I think conducting a comprehensive external and internal search would help that candidate be empowered to take the position. So I'm
So
proposing
you-
that we have an external
Or an out-of-district search.
out-of-district search.
Okay. Does anybody want to second an out-of-district search? What, Mrs. Arminio?
Go ahead, because I don't,
I will second the motion to do an
external.
a comprehensive out-of-district search.
A comprehensive out-of-district search. Is that what you said,
That's
Mr.
fine.
Mr. Polari?
Okay.
A comprehensive out-of-district search? Because that's what I heard. Okay, so let's open up for comments or questions on doing a comprehensive out-of-district search. Nobody?
I think we have very qualified candidates within the district, and I think it's good for morale to hire within and search within first. And so I'm going to vote no on your motion.
Me too. I think we have gold already.
Also, I think it also sends a message to our staff, career pathing. I think if we look internal first, we have a lot of talent here. So I think if we started that way first, and then if we need to, go out.
Okay.
I'd also like us to start internal first. I think that we have brought people from the outside in, and they have not lived up to expectations. They don't understand the ins and outs of Monroe and the changing dynamics, and I think we would be better off served by somebody that's been in the district, who knows us, who knows what flavor we are, and where we're changing and growing. And I really like the idea, as Rupa said, the idea that, you can start as a teacher here in the district, and there's room for you to move up, because we're going to nurture you and we're going to keep you a long time.
Or a high school principal.
I think it's inappropriate.
We don't talk about personnel, we only talk about process. Mr. Ryback?
I have to say that I think that we need to just start with an internal search. Couple of reasons. I think certainly we have outstanding talent right here, but I think, and if I'm wrong, Ken, correct me, I think Mr. Chiarella was alluding to something about costs, and I think if we do a search internally and we find someone that we think is, outstanding, and again, I know we have outstanding candidates, then we could save a lot of money by not having to hire a search firm. And I know, going through this last time, that, we're spending money. We ended our relationship with one firm and went with another company because we weren't happy with the candidates we were bringing. We can avoid all of that. You can always do that afterwards, but let's do an internal search first.
And it would save us an awful lot of
That's exactly
time.
what I mean, time and money.
Yeah.
What is, when you talk about a lot of money, I don't think it costs more than $30,000
Well,
or 12.
okay,
I mean, school boards, whether we use them or not, I think they went from 7,000 to like 17,000. Not saying that, look, any amount
It
of
went
money.
from 4,000 to 15,000.
Thank you, 4,000 to 15,000. But, and I'm not saying that any amount of money that's taken away from instruction is taken away from children, I get that. But this is a very important situation. It's probably about a $200,000 a year plus with benefits, salary. It's an important district, and I believe transparency, and we've heard, over the years from the public that they have, there's slight issues with our transparency. So I think we should absolutely vote to. If our candidates are that good internally, they will rise to the top anyway.
Right.
So what's the problem?
I'm not, if I
Yes,
can,
go ahead.
you certainly bring up a point with money. It's certainly not millions of dollars, but it costs, and it's time. I think that, we have outstanding candidates here. I think we should look at that first before going outside. I don't think transparency is the right term here, Ms. Arminio. I think that, we're being open in saying, this is who we have. Let's take a look at who we have first and see who fits the bill. And if we find someone who we agree on, that's fine. If not, then we move on. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
May I? I thought I made it abundantly clear to everybody what I was suggesting. I'm not suggesting spending a penny on anybody. All I'm saying is the resources are available at NJSBA where they would allow us to post the position on a website. There's no cost involved. This will entitle the candidate, whoever is going to be selected, that I have been selected out of a pool of everybody. They did not restrict anyone. Everything was transparent. That's all I'm getting at. And I'm not suggesting that we hire a firm, we hire NJSBA, none of that. There's no penny. I do agree with the Madam President that, yes, there'll be more resumes coming in, so it'll require us to go through a little bit more time consuming. But like, I don't know, maybe Patty said it, I think at the end of the day, the candidate who knows our district best, who knows the ins and outs of the district challenges, would raise up on the top and be able to be selected.
Okay, the only thing I'd like to say is that the last 2 times we've had a new superintendent, in fact, school board said that when they were here, the salary for superintendents has been capped. So people don't make a lateral move from one district to another district because they want to go here if they're not making any more money. So what they do is you're going to get a smaller district trying to make more money coming into a bigger district. And we found the last 2 times that coming from a small district, you have a long or a very, it's not a short learning curve to come into Monroe and learn about the district and the issues that are happening here. And it takes them a long time to understand Monroe and then get into the feel of things. The other thing is, hopefully we will be doing a referendum and construction, and how many superintendents out there have construction experience in the past, or referendum experience in the past. So that's something else. We'll take a vote. We will do what we always do, is go with the majority of the board. So unless anybody else has any other comments or questions or discussion?
The only other point I want to bring up is when we had the March 4th meeting, was it? When
Yes.
the NJSBA representative was here. She also said that she highly recommends that we conduct not just the internal, but do external also. She highly recommended it, so.
Anything else?
Could we read the
Yes.
motion again? Yes, it's to engage in a comprehensive out-of-district search open to external and internal candidates.
Okay, we'll have a roll call.
Mr. Ryback?
No.
Mrs. Lang?
No.
Mrs. DeMayo?
No.
Mr. Tefano?
No.
Mr. Pluri?
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio?
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky?
I am torn, but I'll stick with the yes. It doesn't matter. I'll stick with my yes.
So noted. Mr. Chiarella?
No.
Mrs. Siegel?
No.
Mrs. Kolpanovich?
No.
Madam Board President, motion fails.
That's my first failure. I love it.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to do?
I will make a motion to do an internal search for a superintendent.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tefano. Okay, any discussion on that, or do we want to just go to the vote?
We had a discussion.
I think we did.
Okay. Motion on the floor made by Mrs. DeMayo, seconded by Mr. Tefano, to engage in an internal search on. Mr. Pluri?
No.
Mrs. Arminio?
No.
Mrs. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Tefano?
Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanovich?
Yes.
This motion requires a simple majority. It has passed with 8 yeas. Motion
Okay.
passed.
So the second question is, which could be a very easy thing, do we want to use school boards for an internal search, or do we want to do it ourselves?
I want to do it ourselves.
Motion?
I make a motion that we do it ourselves.
I second that.
Do we need conversation about this?
Yes, I'd like to know how that's going to be handled. Who will be, the candidates have to apply to whom, and who will be getting the records, and who will be in the
Well,
interview?
I don't think we have discussed that yet. That's part of.
Well, that's part of what I
right?
want to know to vote on.
From what I would be thinking is that they would apply to the Board of Education, that the.
How? To whom? And who's going to review it?
We all will, every board member will review every.
And how
every-
will Appletrack get it to, it should not be to any administrators.
No, it
should
would be to
not
me.
You're going to get it directly from Appletrack.
We could send
Follow
that
the
down.
same procedure that you did for in the past, which was direct application to you and the board,
Yeah, that's what I think.
independent of Appletrack.
Yeah. We can post it, and instead of going through Appletrack, they could take all the information and give it to the board president, which will be available to all the board members.
So it'll go directly to you, it won't be going to the board office, correct?
It would go to the board office under my name. It's not coming to my house.
Well, the problem is that no one in the board office should see who the candidates are
Exactly.
or any, so how are you going to accumulate the
Well, they would send it
resumes?
confidential in an envelope.
Okay, with no names on it, to you?
Not on the outside, but on
Right.
the inside.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
So is that the plan?
Is that how we did the search for the acting
Yes, that's
superintendent?
what
Saying, yes.
Mr.
Right, the
Goodall
same
just
process?
explained to me, that's what we did. And then once we get those applications, I don't even know if we have to go through criteria then, because, you know, I think there's only a certain amount of people that have the criteria, because you need to have a certification to do that. So I think there's only a limited people in Monroe who have that. So once that happens, we, as a board, can get together, like we've done with school boards in the past, go through all the applications, decide who we want to interview, and set up an interview schedule.
And I'm going to make a very controversial statement, but I guess it won't be my first or last. But it seems to me there's a very short list, and I do feel that it's already being predetermined by people other than myself. So I'm very disappointed in the kind of action we're taking. But let's have a vote.
Well, this has always been, and we've always done this, and we always will, a Democratic Board of Education, and the majority rules. Sometimes you're on the majority, sometimes you're on the minority, and I've been on both, so I understand that. But the board has agreed as an 8-2 to do an, what was it, an 8-2 to do an internal search. I can work with the board attorney to come up with a plan and then send it out to all the board members to see if they would agree with that. And
okay, because I'm not sure, and we should get clarification from somebody, but with all due respect to any of our staff, I don't even know if the board attorney should be part of it either, because she would be an employee who would be
but she wouldn't know.
Hired by the supervisor or recommended, is that correct?
No, she would not, probably would not be able to. So I could work with the personnel committee if you want me to work with the personnel committee.
You know what, I think it's already predetermined, so I'm not sure that it matters. But let's have a vote. There's a vote on the floor. I'll call the vote.
Is there a vote on the floor?
I mean, a resolution
There's
on the
a
floor.
motion on the floor.
To do it
so-
ourselves.
Yep.
Okay.
I think I was told by Steve I need to clarify my motion.
Okay.
I have it noted as do it ourselves.
Yes.
Thank you.
I make a motion, what is it? What did you say?
That the board
Oh,
conduct
that
an
the
inter-
board conducts an internal search for superintendent. Is that clearer?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's, it's more formal.
Yes.
Okay.
So who seconded that? Who seconded Jill's?
Mr. Flory.
Mr.
I seconded it.
And so you're agreeing to her?
That's, yeah.
Okay. We'll just take a roll call.
Okay, the motion again is for the board to conduct an internal search for superintendent. Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mr. Tefano.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
No.
Mrs. Kolopanoch.
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion passes 9 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, what I will probably do is sit with Steve, my partner in crime. We will discuss this and come up with a plan, and then we'll send it to the rest of the board, because I think that will be our responsibility. Is that okay with you? Okay. Is that okay with you, Ms. Arminio?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
That
that.
Steve and I will get together and work out a plan on how to get this done.
Once again, it seems unilateral, but you're the boss.
Well, does anybody else have a better suggestion?
No, I just want to ask a question, because I think I'm having an early senior moment.
It's not early.
Did we vote twice to do an internal search?
did.
Because
I
I
think we
thought the
did,
second,
yeah.
the second motion
Yeah.
was to go with school boards or not.
Oh, the second motion should be,
Doesn't matter if they're going to go on.
Then maybe it wasn't a senior
You are
moment.
right, then, we did it.
All right, thank you. Phew.
All right,
Okay.
well, it
no, the
passed the
second
same.
motion was that the board do the internal search, not an outside motion.
We voted to do an internal search, and then we voted to see who would do the internal search.
And we said the board.
Okay, all right.
So
Is that
that's,
clear enough for you?
I'm on Geritol.
Do I need to say it again? to be
no.
clear?
So would anybody, besides Ms. Arminio, have an issue if Steve and I got together, came up with a plan, and then before we do anything, we share it with the Board of Education? Is that okay? Okay, I see heads bobbing, like,
I think that would be great to have a plan that kind of gives us a date when you'll, what
we
we're
we
going
have
to
to
do,
come up with a
when we're gonna do
timeline.
it. Yes, I think that would
Right.
be.
And like Judge Judy says, bobbleheads don't mean
Bobbleheads,
anything. You have
no.
to say it out loud. All right. So are we good with this now?
Yes.
I am good with it, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Polari. All right, so we will go to now, where are we? Other Board of Education business. Does anybody have anything they wish to bring to the board? Mr. Tufano?
I would just like to make sure that people who have any questions or anything that they want to learn about the referendum show up at the rec center on March 11th. That's a Monday at 7 o'clock. The superintendent will be there to answer any questions that anybody has. Don't believe everything you hear. Some of it's not true. And this is something that's very important that needs to be addressed, and you need to have knowledge of it before you make an uninformed vote that can hurt our kids in the future. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, I echo Mr. Tufano's comment on that. I got a couple of things that I want to bring up as part of this. First thing is the Educational Advocacy Committee meeting was actually yesterday. Because of the weather, we canceled it. We're going to reschedule it, and we'll notify the public on that. The second item is that in Monroe Township, the high school students put together what's called as a 3Ms, which is Monroe Mindful Mentor. It's a mentorship. There's about 30 kids who enrolled in that. The India-USA Forum of Monroe Township is conducting that in the rec center. There's about 30 students, the mentees and the mentors, and they're giving them positive psychology training, public speaking sessions, and things like that. After a 12-hour program, each of the mentees will be presenting on the Women's History Month on March 9th in the rec center. I want to bring it to the board's attention that this is a voluntary thing that's being done by the high school students, and having seen some of the kids speak so fearlessly in front of the mic, it was very impressive. But I think we can fine-tune everybody's skill set in terms of public speaking. So this is a great initiative that's taken by some of the kids. So I just want to applaud them for that. The other point is there's a lot of ambiguity and a lot of questions that fly into social media. People taking advantage of the fact that we always come out and say that I speak as not as a member of the Board of Education, but as a public person. So I think having seen that, and we've been sent some emails and some derogatory comments on social media, I would like to propose a motion, maybe suggest to the Madam President that maybe we write a letter as a board supporting the referendum. There's 10 of us here. I believe that all 10 of us are going to vote yes and yes on it. They're looking for the mayor to support it. I think they finally got that. I think the board also putting our support behind it would go a long way with the public.
I second that.
So for me to write a letter to the editor on behalf of the board?
Correct.
In support of the referendum.
Right, because I know we talked about it, but I can't do that on my own without the support of the Board of Education. So I have no problem with that. If you made a motion, Jill made a second. Any comments or questions about that? We'll take a roll call then.
Please let me win this one.
Motion on the floor, moved by Mr. Pluri, seconded by Mrs. DeMaio, to have the board president draft a letter on behalf of the Board of Education supporting the referendum.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarello.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMaio.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Thinking about it, Andy. Yes.
Noted as a yes. Mr. Pluri.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes, I'll go along.
I want it.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Tufano.
Yes.
Mrs. Colapanos.
Thank you. Yes.
Noted as a yes.
Oh,
Mr. Pluri, congratulations. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I did my job.
That's your first one. We'll have many more. All right. Is there any other, Mr.
I just
Ryback?
want to add a little more thunder to what Mr. Tufano said, because it's so important. People really need to get out. We're doing a lot of presentations, and people need to really go to those to hear facts, from us, but also know that you can ask questions. It's not just sitting and listening. You can ask questions. And there's other ways, and you can certainly go on the website and find out information. You could call and find it. We're doing everything, I think, possible to answer these questions. The thing you need to do is just don't listen to your friend, your neighbor, what you read on Facebook or in social media. Find out for yourself. So thank you for bringing that up.
Anybody else? Mrs. Lang?
I just wanted to remind everybody that on February 20th, the Jamesburg CPAG has invited us to attend their meeting, which is about transition. And they're having a speaker from the ARC is coming, so that's February 20th, 6:30 at the JFK School. Mr. Rutsky said I was right with that. And our next, as Mr. Goodall said, our next meeting of the Monroe Township CPAG, Betty Savarito, who's been working very hard to keep all parents involved and notified, that's scheduled for March 14th at 7 o'clock. And I know one of the things that Betty was talking about today is she wants parents to know that it doesn't matter what your child might be classified as. If you have a child within special education or a child who might need extra help, they haven't been classified yet, please come. This is not just exclusive for one group of parents. This is for all of us together to work together. And then please try not to forget about the wonderful, the Rho Kappa Honor Society thing on March 14th. And I think that's going to be very interesting at 2:15 in the afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Then we're back to public forum. Anyone wishing to speak to the board, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Again, 4-minute time limit, and we can only come up once.
Hi, my name is Helen Rasimowis, 14 Cottonwood Court in Monroe Township. I have a freshman that swims. So I've been asking questions around trying to figure out why Monroe, who has so many good programs for athletes, clubs, educational, all over the board, but we don't have a swim program. And this year we had 16 swimmers who went out and swam at the GMCs. And they can't go and practice. They practice with their club, but no, with the township. They don't have that same that other high schools, provide for their swimmers, where they go to different meets together, cheer for each other. They go there like a little group, and they swim and they compete, and they go home. We had 6 kids who had medals, who placed really well. So we are wondering, as a parent, what can we parents do to help? And what is the board doing? Because we like and love to have a swim team.
Based on student interest, the swim club is being proposed in the budget for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be presented in the spring, in March, and affirmed in April.
Okay.
And when we add a athletic team to our program, we usually start it as a club, and then the following year, we make it a program, athletic program.
Okay, thank you. Is it anything else we parents can do to help?
Just support the budget proposal.
Okay.
And support what we're doing here.
Okay.
But we know it's time to add a swim team.
Great, thank you so much.
Anyone else from the public?
Maria Fasaponte, 7 Angelina Court. I'd just like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Monroe Township Middle School PTO Board of Officers to express our sincere appreciation to our acting superintendent, Rob Goodall, Board President Kathy Kay, and especially Board Vice President Steve Ryback for launching an investigation regarding middle school organizations. It has been extremely challenging to remain positive and carry out the good work of the long-standing middle school organization, the PTO, amid the callous acts of deception and attempts to discredit and slander the good-intentioned volunteers that have sacrificed and given not only of our time, but a piece of our spirit. We have been ridiculed and lied about in public forums simply because we chose to carry on the tradition of the PTO and support the faculty, administration, parents, and most importantly, the middle school students. Thank you for believing in us and supporting us during this most difficult time. Your concern and swift action during a time when you are consumed with passing the much-needed referendum speaks volumes about your concern for our children. Regardless of the outcome of your investigation, thank you for acknowledging our dedication and passion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prakash Parab, 33 Dana Drive. Very appreciative about the curriculum regarding coding for the 8th grade. Thank you. That's very nice. And also math competition. Thank you very much. That's very good. What has happened is, you all know that all across our town, constructions are going on. My tax has increased threefold.
Mr. Ryback would like you to speak into the microphone because he can't hear you.
Thank you, thank you. So, you know, our goal is very important that we get this referendum passed in a positive way, we all think. And there's a lot of, on the Facebook, I see a lot of no's, so we try to, you know, answer and pursue them. So coming to the bottom line, you know, our taxes are going up, and, you know, as the construction goes on, when a new community comes in, we need expansion of the schools, we need recreation, we need parks, and the impact fees, okay? So the builders also, they contribute to the society, and everyone, it is success for both, you know. So the resolution was passed. It is good we have started it. The council passed a resolution in December calling for the legislators to pass a law so that we, the municipalities, can collect impact fees to support the schools. So it will be very good. The similar type of resolution will be passed by BOE so that it supports. You know, we also are lobbying for that, so it strengthens. Okay, so that's a request.
We were bringing that issue up to the Educational Advocacy Committee, and unfortunately yesterday, because we had no school, that committee had did not have a chance to meet, so it will be brought up at their next meeting.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The second thing, yesterday, you know, I saw that 8 schools are suing the state because they don't like the bill, which is become a law, S2. You all know what is S2. So they lost, you know, the schools are getting less paid by 1 million or 2 million. They used to get, I think, 400 millions. Now they are getting less, 2 million or 3 million. I don't know. But 8 schools are suing the state. So we, you know, you all know that our funding was frozen for 8 years. And we didn't sue at all to the state. You know, so we have to, I want the advocacy team to look at, you know, how we can sue the state, okay? Because now the money we are going to get back is phased into next 6 years. Suppose we were getting in 2008, $8 million, that to get back, last year we got 2 million, this year another one additional, so it is going to take 6 years. Plus, you know, you should look at the funding formula. It doesn't pay much for us, for our special education. It's very important we get funding for the special education. You know, and with the current formula, it doesn't justify that. So we should look into the different way to sue the state so that we get our funding, fair funding from the state, you know. So just a thought process, so think about it, okay?
That is another piece that the Educational Advocacy Committee will be looking into, because as we've probably in the past talked to 4 or 5 different attorneys. We don't have a reason to sue. We cannot sue the state and win. So if we want to make sure that we do win, we have to have a criteria to sue the state. And we haven't fallen under anybody's criteria yet. So we will be looking, because there are special ed, there's transportation, there are issues that we can look at, and that new committee will be doing that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Seeing no one, we'll close public forum, closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21, to discuss the following subjects: student discipline appeal at the high school, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be discussed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mayo, Mr. Ryback, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Then at this time, the board will move into closed session. Time the board will move back into public session, and Mr. Goodall will read a resolution.
Following a student discipline appeal during which the Board of Education heard the parents' appeal and reviewed relevant evidence, including a video of the incident in question, it is recommended that the Monroe Township Board of Education affirm the decision of the acting superintendent of schools regarding the student discipline appeal involving student number 90712, and directs the acting superintendent to provide a copy of this resolution to the parents. The acting superintendent is hereby authorized and directed to take all necessary steps to implement this action by the Board of Education.
Moved by Mr. Ryback. Second by Ms. DeMayo. Comments or questions? Roll call, Mr. Gorski.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mr. Tefano.
Abstain.
Mrs. Colapanowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, anybody from the public wish to speak on the closed session item, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Patty Bizignano, 4 Birchwood Road, Jamesburg, New Jersey. So your decision is to, let me just clarify, to go ahead with the suspension?
Yes.
Let me start by saying how extremely disappointed we are in the school administration and the security. My daughter was attacked by 3 girls from another school at our school. 3 girls. When leaving that basketball game on January 10th, my daughter, her boyfriend, and her friend were walking out of the building. Those 3 girls from Old Bridge came behind them, yelling and cursing at them. I don't want to repeat what they said because it was pretty disgusting. My daughter turned around and one girl continued to push my daughter's friend, who was directly behind her, and then grabbed my daughter by the hair, pulled her down, while her other 2 friends then started punching and kicking her on top of her. And I have that on video. My daughter was trying to do whatever she could to get that girl to let go of her and to get away. Thankfully, Detective DeGraw came in and pulled that girl off my daughter. But she got away from him. He then fell into the crowd and onto the ground along with my daughter, and I have that on video as well. They both got up and he went outside to the mayhem that was happening outside in the parking lot. Come to find out that the girl that did provoke and attack my daughter to begin with was outside fighting other Monroe students and was arrested that night for it. There were no security guards at the door when they were leaving, not one. If the school is aware of the past problems with Old Bridge High School and heard rumblings that there may be an issue, then why didn't they have security at all exits? This for sure would not have happened if they did. My daughter went to the police outside for help. They helped her because she was bleeding from being hit in the face. Now you want to suspend her for 10 days for something she had no control over.
for defending herself when you couldn't protect her. Your blanket policy doesn't work here. Your attorney suggests that she doesn't have a right to defend herself and protect herself. Should she have just crawled up in a tiny ball and wait for somebody to come and save her? I don't think so. How unreasonable and dangerous does that sound? What if that person had a weapon? Would that have made a difference? Because you don't know if she did or not. If someone comes into our school, starts attacking our kids, will they be suspended for defending themselves? Those students from Old Bridge High School came into our school with ill intent, and boy, did they succeed. My daughter has never had a physical altercation with anyone. She has not been suspended or had detention. She has lost faith in all of you, as do I. While I understand your zero tolerance policy, it doesn't apply here. This wasn't an argument or a rift between students who have a history. They never even met before. These people came here to do harm to our kids. Your discipline policy clearly states administration retains the right to modify when and where necessary, and I believe this should have been one of those times. You said you did a thorough investigation. Not once did you question those that were with her. How is it that you can make a rational and a logical decision without asking those that were there? My daughter is not your sacrificial lamb, the one that you need to get your point across. She wasn't outside fighting in the mayhem and not listening to the police. If she was, then we wouldn't be here. She would have served her suspension, and rightfully so. She was the victim, and that's why I'm here today. And that's why I have these people here today fighting for her.
My name is Suzanne Kavanaugh, and I am a parent. And I have to say that I am extremely disappointed. Shame on you. And I'm sure some of you are parents. You're certainly not acting like parents, but you are put on this board to protect people. And the person that you were supposed to protect was her. And you let people come from the outside into this district that you are supposed to protect, and they're calling the shots? Shame on you. Shame on you. You have to go home and look in the mirror.
My name is Robert Kavanaugh. I'm Grace's cousin. I'm actually a police officer in Hudson County. I just want to talk about the self-defense issue. Sometimes it's not as simple as a policy. Everything is not always how it is on paper, and you can't look at everything like that. Sometimes things happen, and people react different ways at different times to different situations. How would you react if you're getting assaulted by 3 different people? I mean, things are said, but when you're attacked by 3 different people and assaulted like that, you have to defend yourself. And I just want you to think about that and just realize that for the future, everything isn't always as simple as a policy, and you have to consider human emotion and how people are going to react in that situation. Thank you.
Bob Rizza, 5 Birchwood Road, Jamesburg, New Jersey. I just have a question. My son's coming here in September. If somebody walks up and punches him, strikes him, pulls a knife on him, clear, I'm to tell him to do nothing? That's a question, please answer. What is your ruling so I don't have to do what's here tonight? If someone attacks my son, he's supposed to do nothing? What is your policy? I'm asking. You have zero tolerance, but yet you have no words. What happens if someone attacks my son on September 10th? I've got 3 more minutes. I'll wait. Nothing? What's the policy? good looking out for the kids. You got nothing. You won't even tell me what the policy is as a parent bringing a kid to this school. Not one of you. Cowards.
Chrissy Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. It's really shocking what is going on here tonight. It's sad that you can't even answer what a policy is. You spoke in closed session about bullying and intimidation. We take bullying very seriously in our district. I recently opened an email sent by the middle school PTO to Mr. Goodall with a list of false accusations against the middle school PSA, the school administration, and the security at the middle school. I provided factual information to the board regarding every ridiculous accusation. Mr. Goodall, what were your findings of your investigation? Did the principal do anything wrong? Did the PSA do anything we were accused of? The only thing the PSA is guilty of being is successful this year. No one other than the middle school PTO takes to social media to bully, disparage, and make false claims about the PSA. It started with the hate packet in August, and it needs to end.
Mrs. Skirby, this
The
is about
focus
the
of this
closed
board
session
needs
item.
to be the
I am
referendum
asking you to
and the
please
student
stop,
growth.
or we're going to have you removed from the building.
I'm speaking about bullying and intimidation. That was on your agenda.
That has nothing to do with this closed session.
It's on the agenda as bullying and intimidation.
And that is not.
The agenda item is for students.
The focus of our board should be on educating our kids.
Skirby, I am asking you to please.
It's not a public forum for general comments. It's on a closed session item.
That's fine. It's a shame. It's a shame what our district has become. You don't answer policy questions, but you'll stop me from talking because a mommy group failed this year and wants to blame
Skirby,
everybody
I'm
other
asking
than
you for the
themselves.
last time
It's a
to
very,
please
very
stop.
sad evening here. Shame on all of you.
Robert Kavanaugh, the attorney for the family.
Can I have your name and address for
Oh, yes, Robert Kavanaugh, Waters, McPherson, McNeil, 300 Lighting Way, Secaucus, New Jersey. I'm the attorney for the family. I just need to get an answer to one or two questions. One, does the 10-day suspension take place immediately?
The parents will be notified tomorrow from administration on the details of a suspension.
Okay, and number two, considering this is a significant 10-day suspension, and this child is taking classes such as physics and Algebra 2 and other hefty classes, is she going to be provided a tutor at home because the negative impact on her class work could be detrimental?
Yes, she'll be provided home instruction per the statute, and they will discuss that with the parents and the student, how to support that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Susan Viana. I live at 8 Wedgewood Court, and I've known the Bizignana family for a very, very long time, and I have to say that I'm very disappointed, as they are, with the results here tonight. And I'm especially disappointed to know that a child can't defend themselves. You know, it would be a totally different situation if it were two students from Monroe High School fighting each other, that there might be history there, but this was definitely just an assault on one of our children, and I'm just really, really scared where this is headed, where we can't even defend our own children in this community. That's all I have to say.
Hi, I'm Marissa Kanata. I live 7 Maple Drive. I'm a student here, and Grace has been my best friend for a long time. And I just want to say that I don't feel safe with what is going on, and I don't feel safe in the school. If anyone were to harass me or attack me in any way, I would not feel safe because of your policy and because of your just trying to suspend her for something she wasn't in any control of, and I'm just speaking for her because I just don't feel safe at all anymore. I thought I did, so I'm very disappointed in this school and the policy, so thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one, we will close that public forum. Our next scheduled Board of Education meeting is on Monday, March 18th at 7 o'clock p.m. at the high school, which is our preliminary budget hearing. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Ryback, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the meeting is adjourned.